What about? If I ask for the pledge of allegiance, we went by Terry tonight. Yes, you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
I wouldn't suggest that I didn't think you could handle it by now.
Thank you.
Welcome to our second regular board meeting of the month of September. We did have a special meeting last Wednesday about year forward. We'll get to that in a second. First, let's go to our minutes. And can I get a motion that the minutes of the September 12th, 2022 meeting be approved as revised earlier today?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Bsdpa. A second. Trustee Raymond, discussion.
I just want to, there's one little more complicated than what was put in there about the whole Department of Transportation sidewalk. I don't want to make it look like it's a dead end. We're not going anywhere with it. It's complicated, you know. Basically, what they said was, if we put in the ADA ramps, they'll put in the crosswalk and the signs on the side, and then they'll do another study to see if the signal will go in or can be justified. So it's not just that the signal is not justified, but that we will have certain steps to get there. That's all. But so I just don't want people to think that is not happening. It's just we have to jump through something. That's all.
So is that proposed edit, or are you?
I don't know, just say it here.
Okay,
Yeah, just say it here. If you could just put it in for these minutes, that we'll move forward with. Thanks.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. Can I get a motion that the minutes of the 9/21/22 special meeting be approved?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Cornos. Trustee Baskin, discussion. Terry, thanks for being so speedy on these.
You're welcome.
Great job.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Mayor's announcements will be short tonight because Liz and I had a little call earlier today, and we both agreed we want a shorter meeting tonight, so let's make it happen. Here we go. New York Forward's application is in, and again, wanted to thank the board, but especially Trustee Bernadette. The formatting that she put together and everything else was phenomenal. It made it look really top notch. Sean came in last week, and I made him sit down. I'm like, don't look at the content we're still editing, but look at the actual formatting and graphics. And he was impressed. I was impressed. I think we all were. So thank you again, Bernadette, for all that hard work on that. A lot of different calls and stuff and comments I've seen around. I want to address them. One issue about Hyde Boulevard specifically. It is a work in progress for sure. And Trustee Raymond and I we were talking about this as well last week when I made him sit down on that look at the New York Forward. There are a couple of things that I do know we need to start thinking about, and this might not be a 2022 thing. It might very well be a 2023 thing because of the fact that we have to get some paving done by our DPW right now. But the truck signs are still woefully deficient, if you can read them at all. And they're not being taken seriously. So I think there's an opportunity to possibly get signage that suggests that we are going to be monitoring it by camera, and we'll enforce that in that manner, and actually place a camera or two out there so that we put a little bark behind the bite, or bite behind the bark, whatever you want to call it. So that needs to happen. We've been reading it. We hear you loud and clear. This was an intention all along, but again, crosswalks came first, some of the signage that we've voted for, et cetera. Also call about lighting on East High Street and High Boulevard, that there might be a need for more lighting there, especially because of the way the hill forms toward that intersection. And it's something to be looked at as well. And I might reach out to Ed Martin to see if there's any ability to locate a light such as that somewhere on the school's property, the playground area, or the field area rather, over there. So to be continued, but we are hearing you. And I want to also talk about the idea of possibly creating a mayor's advisory board for what essentially I would call the creation of a 2023 streets plan across the village, not just in one section of the village. We had stated that High Boulevard was the starting point, that if we could get High Boulevard correct, finally, after years of discussion, everything, or at least moving the right direction, we also owed it to the village to do the same type of things to the rest of the streets. But again, we are out of time for 2022 to get anything meaningful done besides paving. So it's time to start getting a plan together so that we can budget correctly, so we can move forward with it. And I'll talk more about that in the future, but I did want everybody to know that we have not forgotten about your streets. Crosswalks are in where they need to be repainted, etc. Paving will be done, but we also want to make sure that the rest of the village does get their opportunity to get heard, to get the signage they need, the lighting they need, and anything else that might be wrong with those streets and sidewalks in those areas. Speaking of sidewalks, Carla had sent around today some questions about the sidewalk law revisions that are going to give us an opportunity, he said, to finally dig in and get sidewalks taken care of on a much faster basis when needed for health, safety, and welfare issues. Darlene, I saw some of your stuff on TV recently where you've been upset. I think, was it Mechanicville or where was it?
I put Mechanicsville and Waterford out there, but they're not the only municipalities.
But one of the things we struggle with here again is being able to handle it on an as-needed basis because the way our code reads. So this started as something where Trustee Bsdpa talked about raising the reimbursement amount, which is a noble effort because we need to do that. It's just behind the times. But we also learned just how deficient our sidewalk code is for where we need to get things taken care of on a much more expeditious basis for everybody's safety, to get weeds out. A lot of minutia, or what you would think is minutia, but then you realize just how prevalent some of these things are around the village. So we are working, Carla's working hard with us to get this code revised as soon as possible, along with many other code revisions. We don't give her a social life. We just keep throwing more and more at her all the time. But thank you to her. It's all good.
It's all good.
That's all that contract comes to. So we will have a lot more on that in forthcoming weeks. That's all for me. Let's start with our liaison reports.
Library, as you mentioned, the New York Forward grant included the library phase 1, which is the room out this way, 2-story room. If we do get that grant, that project can happen. And the part in the New York Forward is the match, the 25%. The assumption is that the library will apply for a library sales grant for 75%. So that would fully fund that project. The only other thing that you were mentioning, the street plan. One thing I'm going to bring up a little later is a ADA transition grant. One of the prime recommendations in the pedestrian and bicycle master plan that we completed at the beginning of this year was for the village to do an ADA self-evaluation and transition plan. Basically what that is an inventory of all our ADA requirements related to sidewalks, crosswalks, ramps, bus stops, etc., and then a plan to address those. So that ties very nicely with what the mayor was saying on, which ramps do we do first, which crosswalks, etc. Capital District Transportation Committee is offering assistance for doing that. Essentially, we're going to pay a consultant to come work with us and gather that information and develop a plan. That grant does not require a match, although we'll match in kind services. So basically our time. We could put in some money if we decided to, but it's not required anymore. And the deadline for applications is the end of this week. It's a pretty simple application. It is not anywhere near as complicated as the New York Forward. It's basically asking you a bunch of questions. Do you have a plan already, etc. I've got a draft of it, and I'll be sending it to the board, but we do have a motion a little later on to authorize the mayor to send a letter of commitment for that grant. I think it's basically a no-lose situation for us to apply for this and get an ADA Another major reason for doing an ADA transition plan is it does protect the village against liability. If there are, if somebody sues the village for not meeting ADA, if you have a plan that provides some protection.
Ben,
Just briefly, the seniors are business as usual, lots of events, check their website. Nothing, but particularly noteworthy beyond their normal, great, itinerary, that they have weekly and monthly. The Arts Committee is meeting with another mural artist, tomorrow. Hopefully they'll be able to move forward with her. And also they are, working on an arts directory, which, has started to be online. So anyone knows an artist who wants to be publicized and, known in the area for, 12020, the Arts Committee will put them online under the website.
my electric slide skills are not artists, so nobody volunteer that, please. Sean,
DPW is, as you can see, we talked about the crosswalks, they're painting crosswalks. And in tandem, they're also doing some minor spot milling, getting prep for paving at various locations. You'll see the cones out there. So I'm hoping they're gonna be able to, weather permitted, start paving very soon.
luckily, I think we're sticking with the 60s at least, not the 50s and 40s for house, yeah. And Bernadette.
Just to touch on arts real quick as well, the Arts Committee is putting not only their application online, but also explaining some, criteria, what they're looking for, so that it's a little more clear to anybody that does fill out a form and seek their input. So that should be coming soon. I know they also are looking at their charter, and at some point they will be asking our board to approve some updates. Bsdpa, they are wrapping up the farmers market this Thursday. They have a celebration on Saturday for the close of the season. I think it's been a really good season for our farmers market vendors. I don't know that we have any farmers except for people having chickens at the house. Also, the car show is coming up on October 9th. And I'm glad, Donna, you reminded me that they have already 200 people pre-registered, 200 cars pre-registered, which is really quite a bit. It's early, so have that amount. So I'm sure it'll be a very busy car show and encourage everybody to attend.
I'm supposed to judge all those?
You're supposed to pick your favorite. I think you could have been your favorite. Yeah.
Okay.
Get to look at nice cars. So that's kind of fun. And then they're working, they received a grant from Saratoga County for COVID sort of relief, which we discussed last meeting. But Bsdpa is busy. And just to wrap up, New York Forward, that's complete. Like you said, the mayor said it's submitted, but I just want to make sure people know that it can be looked at. The final application can be looked at online on the New York Forward page.
Just for folks, I know the question of timing came up. A couple of different things I gleaned from looking this week when I saw those questions. I think there's a conversation with the Biddles and you are correct. I believe the decision's made in the next couple of months, and starting in January, you go through, if you win, more or less a 6-month process with the planners that they sign you with, and they don't actually fund your projects until the end of that planning process when they identify whether or not those projects are appropriate, et cetera. So it's not an overnight sensation, but if you win it essentially. So that's good to know. And then you got a lot more work to do, and then they actually do call more on the local planning committee at that point in time to assist. So let's cross our fingers that our local planning committee is going to be very busy in 2023 with the rest of us at that point in time, because that would be a good sign. Okay, treasurer's report, Julia.
Okay, if you can remember back a while ago, the board had agreed to move the town-county re-levy. So what we re-levy to the county and towns for unpaid water and sewer back a month to help with the county deadlines for their tax season. In previous years, the last day to collect unpaid water and sewer and taxes was October 31st. The new deadline is September 30th. It is reflected on the tax bill if you haven't noticed. So if anyone has any payments that they need to make, please make sure that it gets to the village office by September 30th. Noteworthy transactions for the month of August are as follows. It's mostly just touching up on the revenue receipt. Sales tax revenue was $112,982. This is up 19% from October 2018 and 19, up 25% from 2020, but it still is down from 33% from 2021. The trend so far for this fiscal year is pretty consistent as opposed to 2020 when there was large increases and decreases for each month. Pool fee revenue, the revenue we collected this year is $40,200, which is about $5,000 more than last fiscal year. So looks like they have gotten back to their normal levels and outside of the restrictions caused by COVID. Metered water, we have collected 313,000 just in August alone, which is about 80% of what we billed for. And with sewer, we collected 84,000 in the month of August, which is about 73% collection rate. Within New York grants, we received 14,883 for the reimbursement of the RIFI system for the police department. The police department did apply, was awarded, and receiving reimbursement was the last step. So thanks to the police department for taking that lead. And then lastly, the library did receive 1,500 from Southern Adirondack Library Systems for their local library services. And that was the major received revenue for the month of August.
I do want to ask the board to consider, because we are running out of meetings before the next water period begins, but we did that discussion about the question of raising the rates on water and sewer about a month and a half ago, I think it was. Do you think we need to stay on that? I kind of let it go while we were in your forward mode there, but we do need to do something before the start of the next period, just to not create a situation where we're doing in the middle of a period, which is deemed, I think, unfair to people using water and sewer at that point. So let's revisit that, hopefully in the month of October, at least to start the discussion, and finalize it hopefully in the month of November, if we need to go that far out, but we have to do that soon. Thanks for reminding me about that in your report, Julia.
Thank you. Julie, would you mind emailing that out to us?
Yeah, I'll email that along with the August reports.
We have two presentations. First one is, I want to say it's Callie Fox from Davy Resource Group Incorporated, and Callie is going to be joining us via Zoom. Jennifer, I think you found Callie. Callie, can you hear us?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, is it Callie or Kaylee? I should have asked you that
Callie.
first. Okay, Callie, the floor is yours. Thanks for joining us. She's going to talk about the community forest management plan for the village.
All right, great. Can I share my screen?
You should be able to.
You should be able to.
Okay. Let's see.
All good.
All right, everyone can see this?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Callie Fox, and I am a project manager at Davy Resource Group. I help to write Ballston SPA's forest management plan. So just to give a little recap, Davy Resource Group completed the inventory in September of 2021, and we collected a total of 1,671 sites. The sites included trees, stumps, and vacant sites, and we only collected sites that located within the village right-of-way, including on public facilities and in parks. And just a little recap, the data fields that we collected were the location, the GPS coordinates, the species, size, tree condition, primary maintenance need, the park name where applicable, any defects associated with the trees. We performed a risk assessment, noted the residual risk, further inspection, whether the risk assessment was complete, and then noted if there was any hardscape damage or overhead utilities present. So the summary of the findings were we collected 1,127 trees, 58 stumps, and 486 vacant sites or planting locations. And of the tree population, there were 68 species and 36 genera. So the reason this is important is because diversity helps to protect the urban forest from pests and disease outbreak. So if there's ever an overabundance of a specific species, genus, or family, it can lead to significant canopy loss in the event of a pest outbreak. We know that certain species of pest and disease attack entire species or genera, which can be quite devastating if one particular species or genera makes up a large percentage of the urban forest. So in Ballston Spa's case, we found that the Acer genus was in abundance at 45%, which means that almost half of the genera found within Ballston Spa is maple. And then there were 2 species that were above the 10% recommended species mark, which was the Norway maple and eastern white pine. And together, those 2 species comprise about 1/3 of the trees found in Ballston Spa. So Davy Resource Group recommends to aim for the 10, 20, and 30% rule as a general guideline. So this rule suggests that the urban tree population should make up no more than 10% of any one species, 20% of any one genus, or 30% of any one family. So Ballston Spa should hold off on planting maple trees, at least for the next few years, to allow greater species and genus diversity in the urban forest. Oops, sorry about that. There we go. So here's the graphic of the tree condition found within the urban population. So 87% of the trees were rated in fair condition or better, and then 13% were poor or dead. So overall, the tree condition is fair. So it's relatively good in Ballston Spa. The inventory revealed that the young tree population is below the ideal relative age distribution. The reason that this is important is that you generally want a large young tree population establishing to replace older trees as they approach senescence. So by maintaining an uneven distribution, it will allow the village to allocate annual maintenance costs uniformly over many years. And this assures continuity in overall tree canopy coverage. So Ballston Spa should focus on tree planting over the next 5 years to ensure that this cycle of young, established, maturing, mature trees is sustained throughout time. This is a breakdown of the ecological benefits provided by Ballston Spa's trees. So it's important to note that these benefits do not include reduction in energy or the various aesthetic benefits that are provided by trees. So the actual ecological benefits is likely much higher. But when we're looking at the carbon sequestration, avoided runoff, and pollutant removal, Ballston Spa's trees provide nearly $5,000 in functional benefits each year. We also found that the replacement value, which is the cost of replacing existing trees with trees of a similar size and condition, is estimated at over $2 million. This value will likely increase as the trees that are now young and establishing reach maturity, and as Ballston Spa plants more trees in the future. So to give a little bit more of a specific view of the ecological benefits, this is a breakdown by species population. So it was found that the pin oak and London plane trees provided the greatest ecological benefits. So for example, the pin oak tree provides a pin oak tree provides a little over $4,000 in ecological services each year. And then each London plane tree provides a little over $3,600 of ecological services each year. If you compare that to white mulberry or the apple tree, which provide about $821 and $350 in ecological services per year. So this chart should be referenced when choosing species for future plantings to maximize or to increase the return on investment. Oops. All right, and the last section of the management plan was the tree management. So when it comes to tree management, condition alone should not be used to prioritize tree maintenance. So Davy Resource Group used the Tree Risk Assessment Qualifications, or TRAQ, to help determine the risk each tree posed to either people or property. So when conducting the inventory, the arborist identified a defect and then assessed that risk based on 3 criteria. So the likelihood of that defect failing, the likelihood of it impacting a target, be it people or valuable property, and the consequence of the impact. So based on this assessment, the tree was then categorized as either high, moderate, or low risk. And then based on these risk ratings, we determined whether the tree fell into a priority or a proactive maintenance item. So the high, moderate, and low risk removals were categorized as priority maintenance, as well as the high and moderate pruning. So we found 2 high risk, 14 moderate, and 104 low risk removals, which are graphed out here. And then we found 20 moderate risk trees in need of pruning. For the proactive maintenance item, 922 recommended for routine pruning cycle. And then lastly, we have the young tree training cycle. So the young tree training cycle helps to create strong structure and improve the overall health and appearance of trees, and it helps to minimize maintenance costs in the future. So Ballston Spa had 80 trees recommended for young tree training. And ideally, these trees should be trained from the time of planting and every 2 to 3 years after that, depending on how quickly that species grows, for the first 8 to 10 years of the tree's life. So we recommended that 27 trees be trained each year, starting with the trees that were in the 5 to 8 inch category first, and then moving through every year. All right, that's all I have. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask.
Questions from the board?
Well, the use of this is so that we can prioritize, particularly high-risk trees that, could fall. We've had trees come down in some of the storm weather that we've had. And this gives us, essentially a scientific method to know which ones we should tackle first. And the plan should help us develop a budget to maintain and take care of our urban forest, because it's an important asset. As you heard, it's about worth $2 million if you have to replace every tree. And I don't think we would like the village as much if it was treated.
Okay, any questions for Kevin?
I just want to thank you. It's very interesting. I learned a lot. There's clearly a lot to know about trees. More than most of us would imagine. And so I look forward to trying to implement some of your recommendations, or at least as best we can. I think the Village of Ballston Spa, and people who know the history can speak more about this, had some huge tree blight a few decades ago, where we had these huge, what kind of trees were they?
Dutch elm.
The Dutch elm. They were all throughout the village, and it just got totally wiped out. And we start over. So we're not strangers to this phenomenon. So thank you very much.
Anybody in the audience before we let Kelly go? Kelly, thank you for joining us. And
I have someone online.
Hopefully you have a raised hand on Zoom. So right alongside you, we'll put this person who is
Nathan Ward.
Nathan. You are good to go once you unmute yourself.
Hi, Nathan Ward, 1 Pine Boulevard. Just curious for the report, does it give examples of good trees to plant near sidewalks that doesn't destroy the sidewalk in the future? Because we have a lot of, trees that are destroying the sidewalks in the village.
Yes, so the plan breaks down the planting sites by small, medium, and large. So if the planting site can only support a small species, we recommend to plant. We have a planting list that we provided the village to account for that.
Nathan, if you send me an email, I can send you that report. I believe it's public domain, right?
Yeah, we can put now that the report's been finalized, we should put it up on the website.
That too. So if you wanted in the very near term, just send me an email and respond off it. Otherwise, we'll get it up in the next day or two.
One thing to mention is this was a DEC 100% grant for this phase, but they do have follow-on grants that will actually provide 75% of either equipment or trees or other materials, so, it hasn't been announced this round is, but we may be able to, apply for grants to help us, replace trees or take trees down.
Okay, I think Nathan is complete, and I don't see any other hands. Kelly, you are free to leave, and again, thank you for all your expertise and help.
All right, thank you for having me. Have a good night.
You too. Up next, Christine Fitzpatrick will talk to us about the Friends of the Library.
Okay, thank you for allowing me this time. Christine Fitzpatrick, 31 Chapman Street. I am currently the president of Friends of the Library. And first, I want to say thank you so much, because we can't say it enough, to the Garden Club that does such a beautiful job. When you come in and you see the back of our library, it does it looks so great. And the people who are in the garden clubs take such a special interest in the library, and that's really great for us. Okay, the Friends of the Bsdpa Public Library was begun on September 25th, 1998. So yesterday, they filed for incorporation as a 501c3 on December 10th, 1999, and they became a 501c3 on September 4th, 2001. The purpose of the Friends of the Library the purpose of the Friends of the Bsdpa Public Library is to enhance collections and programs and promote the total services of the library to the community through volunteering and fundraising. So we support the collections, we do additional programming, and we do some fundraising. The whole purpose of the whole organization is to support the library and the library activities. Currently, the officers, I am the president of the Friends, as I said. The vice president, with whom I'm sharing my awesome power, is Mandy Ryder. The secretary is Julia Baracus, a new member of our group. The treasurer is Meredith Tower, and the member representative currently is Danielle Thompson. During the pandemic, the library, the Friends fell on sort of like everything else. Less active, less people were involved. So what we're trying to do, what we're working towards is, and then the president resigned on July 15th. So what we're trying to do is build the membership back up. That's going to take a lot. We have to revise bylaws. We have to revise the membership brochure. We have to do more to attract people, and that's what we're working on. We've been doing that since since our first meeting in August. We have several programs. We had a program on Saturday, Exploring Foraging, which was a presentation by Ann Best, who has had a woman-owned business in this community for over 11 years. She's a massage therapist. But she's also trained in forestry and had her own landscaping business. And it was about what you can glean from the natural world by season to eat or use for medicinal purposes. It was a small group, but they were very, very involved, and Ann did it, very engaged, and Ann did a really great job. Our next effort is going to be on October 9th. We are going to have a book sale. We're going to be staffing. The library has a book sale that's ongoing. We're going to act as staff really for the library's book sale during the car show. We won't be in the parking lot. We're going to be over on the side. It'll be a smaller sale. We'll be on the lawn because the car show is going to be using the parking lot. But we will be having a book sale from 9 until 3:30 in the afternoon. And as I said, the Friends will really be staffing that for the purpose of the library. We are having a program on magic and memory on Saturday, October 5th. One of our members is a magician and also has some training in memory training. He was in the military for a long time and has done some training in memory, and he's also, put that together with magic, which involves a lot, distraction, but also having to remember how to do things in sequence. So he's going to be doing a program for us, probably 2 sessions of 45 minutes each. It'll be on Saturday, October 10th, and it's for individuals 10 years of age or older. So membership in the Friends of the Library is individuals get per the library, per the bylaws, you have quote unquote have to join. There are benefits for membership. We're working them out a little bit more. We are working on, the membership is $5 a year for individuals, $10 a year for families. And you can write to or get to the Friends of the Library upstairs. There's a place where you can sign in. You could also visit. We do have a Facebook page, which is amazing that I'm in charge of anything that has a Facebook page, but it is Friends of the Ballston Public Library. So that's it for us now. We will continue. We look forward to continuing to serve the library. We very much will be involved in this program as the library moves forward to expand its space and improve its space and expand its programming to the community. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Any questions from the board first? Any questions from the audience? Right.
Okay.
I don't know if
It's Ray Otten, for those.
Ray Otten, 16 Roebuck Avenue, Bolton. I don't know if you're looking for any fundraising opportunities for the library, but we could learn from the Schenectady Public Library. They have a store in the, I won't say mall, but whatever is left of the mall in Rotterdam, and they sell used books for no more than $4. And all those books are donated, so it's 100% profit, basically. And if something like that could be set up, and I know we have book sales, you mentioned book sale, but if we could have a regular, some sort of a display of books for sale for whatever reason, the books that have been donated or books that are, way out of print or, something like that, might not be a bad little thing here in the village to help do some fundraising for the library.
Well, that is something that we do. We have had book sales in the past. There is an ongoing book sale that goes on in the front vestibule of the library. I was in the Schenectady library yesterday, yesterday, and I did see that. It is something we talk about, but the problem, the issue with that is you have to have space. And you have to, where you keep the books, and you have to have somebody to maintain it. So a lot of times with book sales, you have to very carefully look at the return on investment. It takes a tremendous amount of effort for how much do you get. But that is something that we have done, we do ongoing, and we will look further into. So thank you very much for this.
Yeah, no, my wife and I go down there as well. We buy probably 95% of our books that we read. And it's all maintained by volunteers, the whole store that's down there. And there's probably, I don't want to say 5,000 books or more.
Yes,
And I realize it's a larger scale.
Yes, and I was very impressed by, they had a picture of who were the Friends of the Schenectady Public Library, and it looked like the cast of a Cecil B. DeMille movie, which is not us. We don't have that many people, but we're working on it.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
I also want to thank Christine. That was interesting. I didn't know much about Friends of the, but I also know that Friends of the Wiswell Park, they're looking at the possibility of 501c3, and even the Arts Committee has talked about, should we have some kind of fundraising arm? So hopefully they can learn from you, because it sounds like they're ongoing success.
Let's go to old business, stormwater sewer assessment. Actually, I do want to jump this 1 second so I don't forget this, announcement I should have made earlier. Concerning those that are planning to get around, what is it, on Saturday, I want to say, because of the Prospect Street closure. The Go Brothers Swap Meet at the fair is going on at the same time, so please be aware that using Prospect Street route to it will not be a good idea because it will not be open. So you'll probably need to go down the front street to Brookside Museum Hill over there, fairgrounds, and up that way to get to your destination. If you're going up to that swap meet event, so please remember Prospect Street will be closed during at least the afternoon hours that day. Sean, now to the stormwater sewer assessment whole business.
Yes, as I had brought up in the past, we have identified locations as far as sanitary sewer through the DPW superintendent, areas of concern. And then in a recent report a couple of months ago that was done by, I don't know if he's the current MS4 officer or previous, but basically a stormwater expert that did a report on the village and also identified areas of concern. And these locations may need, may have a critical need for repair or replacement. So,
Are you talking about Blue Deals?
yes.
Yeah, I talked to Blue today, but I don't want to cut you off, so you finish, I'll chill in from there.
But pursuant to that, I think it's vitally important that, just as we did for the water tanks, that we do a sewer and stormwater assessment of the areas of concern that are identified. Because that would tie into raising sanitary rates. Because if we're going to raise them, how much are we going to raise them, and what's our supporting data? And by doing an assessment, we would have supporting data where we could at least have an order of magnitude initially, and also then essentially drill down to more specific numbers, as well as identifying areas, like you said, that might need more immediate need, and then some that maybe we can do some more planning for, and get an estimate on the lifespan of those areas that have already been identified as potential problem areas. So I was hoping that maybe we could do something again with your discussion on sewer rates very soon. So if we did engage our village engineer and started developing a scope of work and a fee, that they could get moving on it, and we might be able to have some preliminary results by the time that you want to discuss what increase should the sewer rates be.
I think the likelihood, unfortunately, of that happening, because I'm not sure if we would be saved from an RFP type process or not, would occur, and that we're put through that. There's no way we'd be able to do it in timing wise. But one of the things Blue and I talked about was
That's not the case. It's not the case.
what's not the case.
If we go through our village engineer, there doesn't have to be a bid.
If it's a major project and it does cross the threshold, we can't just use the village engineer.
They're professional services. They're excluded from that.
Sorry?
I don't know what the village engineer contract says with respect to work we're supposed to be doing. They are professional services, but there's no bidding requirements for that. There may be under your procurement an RFP or at least 3 written quotes, but you don't have to go out to bid for it.
So still would need to do some legwork to get that priced out, and so it's not gonna be a tomorrow thing. That's one. Number two, talking to Blue, I raised a couple different issues with him. First, about I&I questions, because I think that's where some of this came from. I remember the conversation with Liz about some of this. And I said, look, I have engineers, 2 engineers basically giving us conflicting advice on this. Labella is suggesting more of an immediate move, regardless of what streets you're paving, especially. LaBerge is suggesting do it as you pay, is more or less the view, because you would know if you had an I&I problem from things like toilet paper, et cetera, getting into the water system, which obviously we get filtered out, but if you still don't want to run the risk of that happening. And his questions did revolve around the question, he said, hey, I can make arguments in both directions myself even. So even he's conflicted as to what the right answer is. He did ask if I've been shown a map showing red, yellow, and green circles essentially of, good to go, not so good to go, and holy cow, we got to fix this type of approach. And I said, no, I've not seen such a thing. So I'm not sure what we have or haven't identified specifically. I haven't seen it drawn out or pinpointed exactly. We talked a lot about it, but I've not seen the locations of what's going on. So that's something that, yes, at some point I would like to see a map like that personally, and everybody else here for that matter. Number two, I did address with him this ongoing problem, because we aren't the only ones experiencing this with the Saratoga County Sewer District and backup issues. One of the culprits for this is that people are running sump pumps into the sanitary sewer, which you're not supposed to do. By doing it, you're creating backups in the sanitary sewer system in certain areas like Saratoga Avenue has experienced. He suggested instead of us trying to come up with some kind of code policy that would allow us to actually go in and resolve those things on our own, to talk to Grant at the Saratoga County Sewer District to ensure that maybe there's already a rule on the books that they can enforce on our behalf, make them the so-called bad guys on this, to stop folks and to inspect the cases where we are concerned about this existing, where some pumps are going into the wrong sewer, really compounding our problems ultimately in that situation. So I will be reaching out to Grant based on that, and Blue is happy to take any follow-ups on that. But he said again that the jury would be out as far as he's concerned in terms of immediate need. He does see the idea of destroying your streets twice as not being necessarily a good one, unless you have absolute reason to do it and backup to do it.
What I'm suggesting isn't talking that we're going to do any construction. It's just identifying the problem. Whether we wait or not, it's nice to know if we have the luxury of waiting, but maybe we don't. But we don't know that, just like we didn't know what the condition of water towers were in until we did an assessment. I think it's just the natural, logical path to take is let's get an assessment. Now, whether or not we have useful information by November is irrelevant. It has to get done. And
currently, those are two separate things I was talking about. I don't think you're going to have the information you need for a rate increase by November. That said, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying don't expect that to happen, because I think that would be, unfortunately, not fully informed of what the situation will be in terms of getting somebody procured, getting them out there to do the work, getting a report together, et cetera. So we probably have to do a little bit of guesswork, inflation use, whatever you want to call it, in terms of water and sewer rates, just to start going in the direction we should have been for the last 4 or 5 years on that stuff.
I think we've been talking about this for a long time and saying we need assessment of both sewer and stormwater. And I'm not sure why it hasn't happened yet. I mean, because there's 2 engineers, who's going to do it, whatever. I think, we should start. I mean, if it's Labella, get them to give us a scope of work and the cost. We have the opera money to spend on this. That's perfectly suitable for those funds, and get this going, because without the assessment, you don't know what you need to do with a thorough assessment. Then you can scope out projects. My God, this needs to be done right away. No, this can wait. And then along with cost estimates, how much dollars you're facing.
The answer to your question, so I don't lose it, is that indeed, as we pointed out, LaBerge's report and $58 million list there was at I&I research, which is part and parcel of this, as a 2024 project. Then we got into a question back and forth. Unfortunately, both of our engineers that we returned to went on vacation until Labor Day, and so now we're starting to get back on track on this.
Okay, well, just to clarify for everybody, LaBerge is working on one specific project. They are not our village engineer. Their scope is confined to doing that work and nothing else. And that is water infrastructure. It has nothing to do with sewer and stormwater. There may be an ancillary impact associated with that, but the study they're doing now has nothing in their scope and would be a complete 100% scope change, which would then mean we would have to put out a new RFP and we would have to bid that because they're not our village engineer. So I see that as just a huge time waster where we could be moving forward with this, with an engineer that we renewed their contract for. So I don't understand why we're not moving forward since they have the most intimate knowledge of the system, beyond what LaBerge has. They've been dealing with Jeff for some time because they're our village engineer. So I would urge you to move forward with at least reaching out to them and having them start to develop a scope on the information we have from Blue Neals and Jeff.
I'm going to suggest on the topic of what you just talked about, I would like to move that further discussion to executive session for reasons that I can't go further on, but would be necessary under the circumstances based on contract compliance and performance. So at this point, I would not be able to go further than that personally. If you want to continue, go ahead.
I think I've made my case very clear. I don't know what else to say.
I also agree with what Sean's saying about, I think we need to have a sense of urgency, and I'd like to see some movement on this before 2024. We do have a village engineer, and I think we've all expressed a sense of let's keep the forward movement moving, so I'd like to see this happen as well sooner than later.
We will continue discussion if need be. We'll come back out of executive session later and continue that discussion if there is a need to do so. No promises either way. We'll see where that lands. If we're good on this topic for now, then I'm going to introduce this topic, saying that Ben Baskin had given a lot of time to compiling the surveys from New York Forward into essentially topics and what people were saying in general, et cetera. And you want to give us kind of a run through so that, as we said, win, lose, or draw on New York Forward, we're going to learn a lot about ourselves.
Yeah, I think people, Mr. Mayor, I think people find this interesting. We had 123 respondents as of when we turned in the grant. So there were certain questions asked about what people like to see in the village, what they like about the village, and I'll just briefly summarize as brief as I can. So age range 20 to 80 years old, average age about 50. 58% were women, 32% male, and then some missing data. People provide more than one answer to each question, so it's not like a complete 100%, for each question. So I'm just gonna sort of summarize. Some people could have given 5 ideas. In your opinion, what is your downtown's best asset? And number 1 was thriving, diverse, independent businesses. So that's what people like or said the most. Walkability, proximity of businesses and residential was the second most commonly mentioned. Charming historical character, and then also community events, arts, Bsdpa. And then next, relaxing, friendly atmosphere. And additional responses included Wiswall Park, Front Street, Henry Street, location on Route 50, things like that. So that's again, I'm going to go keep moving, but if you have questions at the end, let me know. In your opinion, what is our downtown's greatest challenge? I should say thank you to Bernadette for getting the survey together and putting it out, and I think it did generate a lot of great information. All right, greatest challenge: inadequate parking is number 1. Building maintenance and vacancy was next most frequently mentioned. After that, attracting amenities and businesses downtown is the greatest challenge. So even though we have a lot of business, people recognize, there is a vulnerability just because we're not a huge metropolis. It doesn't take much to go one direction or the other, perhaps. Next one, walkability accessibility. In terms of many people mentioned poor condition of sidewalks. We've heard multiple times. Lack of bike access was another one. The next great challenge, traffic, 11 responses. Route 50 was mentioned a number of times, obviously, in Northeast town. Then poor condition of infrastructure in public spaces. The next greatest challenge, encouraging people to shop local. Things like that. So next question, what else does this area need to make it a better place to work, live, and play? And again, there's some overlapping responses. But number one, and really tied with number two, very close, but number one, more pedestrian friendly. So again, the sidewalks, traffic flow mitigation. Some people wanted like a more pedestrian mall kind of area. So that was, and then right behind it, but basically tied is improved parking. Many people wanted more parking, better signage to parking. The number of comments on the difficulty of parking on Front Street and the pedestrian dangers on Front Street, things like that. Next most common, update / clean up the buildings. So, you know, people just seeing some decline in their storefronts, hold property owners accountable, things like that. Next most common, more parks, green space playgrounds. Sometimes it seems like people didn't know we had some playgrounds around the village. Not everything can be right downtown, but some people, you know, they were talking about more picnic tables and things like that. So that was right behind that was create more amenities or things to do downtown. So again, more businesses and family entertainment. So again, more things to do. It could be theaters, was mentioned, bookstore, optometrist, somewhere to house outdoor market indoors, things like that. People mentioned a bakery, septic. So, but basically a variety of more amenities downtown. The other thing that was mentioned by a number of people was some kind of art center or events place, and they talked about Angelica. It's like, oh, wouldn't that be ideal? But something where, particularly for young people, could they go and do something and, you know, organize together, give them more things to do.
I just wanted to say, yeah, there are eye care opticians on Washington Street, right?
Yeah, they're probably.
So to those, to the study, to the survey, people that put that in, please make sure you realize that we do have outside.
I probably shouldn't even mention that. But number of people want to say more restaurants, more businesses, more entertainment.
Please.
Another popular response, improve the library. People are aware of the ongoing library efforts and they support that. Improve bike access, bike parking to lock bikes was a common suggestion, and I think we probably could do that without much trouble. Better connections to biking trails. And then a number of people said better publicity / signage. So in terms of both marketing, but also just within where's the parking, where's the commercial activity. Something mentioned at the comprehensive planning meeting was more signage to just sort of explain the history of our village. You know, if you're in front of a building, what's the building and neighborhood. So, but signage came up a number of times. And then people are just promote good development. You know, developing empty or dilapidated properties, things like that is very, very important. The last question, which overlapped with the third question, are there any specific project you think would improve this zone of our downtown? And again, it's basically a commercial business district, but maybe even a little smaller than that, but right downtown. Obviously redeveloping Angelica was big on the list, is the number one thing mentioned. Talking about turning it into a destination, multi-use center. Some people said put parking there. But some people said, you know, make it apartments. So people had a lot of different ideas for Angelica, but they would definitely like to see something happen. Improve municipal buildings was common. People want to see something happen with a bowling alley. And then there were other properties mentioned, you know, buy old houses on Main Drag and fix them up. Also very important to people with beautification, upkeep of the building and streets. So again, common themes here. Improve Wiswall Park was very frequently mentioned. Better recreation options. Again, where can 12 to 16-year-olds go to have fun? Someone suggested an axe throwing business. Pedestrian safety was another common response, again, the whole pedestrian, and then extend to downtown, so, Front Street, go down to where the buildings, that aren't being used right now. And obviously expand into Ricketts and just improve the infrastructure was also mentioned. So that's the survey in a nutshell. And I thought people would be interested in seeing it. The summary was included in your report, so thanks for summarizing that.
I just wanted to
Yeah, go ahead.
comment, so, thank you, by the way, for summarizing all of that. Our committee members actually read through individual responses and incorporated a lot of their ideas into the application, as well as it helped us see that we were on track. What they were suggesting was stuff that people wanted in this community, so it was really important. Yes, some of the questions had some overlap, they were kind of asked different ways. Some of it was used to write a vision statement that the application asked us to write. And then also just maybe we thought if we'd ask it a different way as a fourth question, we get specific ideas, So yeah, people that read it, they're like, oh, this sounds kind of the same, but every once in a while you get somebody that caught the difference in the language
The
and
nuances.
yeah, and that's why I was kind of asked that way. So, but thank you, Ben, for doing that.
Sure, well, thank you. And I just want to add to, or transition this conversation, that you mentioned the, like the village-wide street safety, and we hear from the survey how important pedestrian safety is to everybody. And all of us on the board are concerned about street safety. Liz did the whole planning grant in the Hyde area, and Sean's a street engineer, traffic engineer, and I've been working on the Route 50 crosswalk and just very interested in sidewalk issues in general. So when we do this, so I think we all support this idea of doing village-wide safety planning. And so when we do a committee, let's not just do a mayor's advisory committee, let's do like a board committee. The board is going to have to approve funds for whatever we end up doing. So let's just make it a where we're all involved, because it'll be a easier process, better process. That's something I suggest.
The reason I bring it in that direction is to basically try to get representation from all sections, like Colonial Hills, the North End, toward High Street, et cetera, Ballston Avenue zone, going up the Fairgrounds area, making sure we have representation of residents to give us their concerns, wants, needs, et cetera. And from there, at the end of the day, when we get all that data dump from everybody and thoughts and sorting out of all that, that's when we can most effectively, I think, say, yes, we can do that. No, we can't do that. The cost is this, the cost is that. I don't want to sit around in that process necessarily. It's more the advisory groups to get information gathered, then to bring it to the board level, to the consultant level, to the BPW level, to get them to assess what can and can't be done.
That's fine. We can do exactly what you're talking about and include all those different neighborhoods in a collective approach. And I just think it'll be, we'll all be on board and also in the know of what's going on, and there won't be any catch up involved. And I think it'll be a healthier process if we just start at the beginning. We all might have different contacts and people who we can approach and say, are you interested? So it's just going to be a stronger, more diverse process if we all are involved, and we can do it, I think, in a way that won't slow it way down.
I just wanted to make one mention. The comprehensive plan committee also has a survey, which I think they just summarized. And this survey was great, but it only had 123 respondents, and I believe the comprehensive plan committee had over 800 respondents. And I haven't read through theirs. I'm sure it echoes the same themes we see.
Well, I actually did read it, and there's something, but actually asked different questions too.
Yeah.
So it's not completely like overlap,
No,
which
it's
is
not.
good.
But there's a lot of the themes that come out, and they've come out ever since the economic development, survey, the bicycle, the pedestrian bicycle, every time, we ask, we get essentially the same basic set of answers about what people want. So, I think really should, move on to, start doing some planning to address those, those issues that people want and sort of try to prioritize because we can't do everything. On Ben's comment, that actually brings me under old business to that committee motion that I made last week. And I did consult with Carla on it, and I'll let her, tell you what her view. I think you had some concerns, the mayor had some concerns about it.
Do we want to just?
Later now or later?
Well,
Later.
Should we do, well, it's old business, really. 'Cause it was-
Doesn't matter to me. Someone tell me.
I don't know what's
Talk or
the
not
proper way to deal with it. It's a motion that I want to make again, but, just to discuss it now because it's old business.
Why don't we get through the agenda? Like, and, maybe at the end, because I feel like there's gonna be a little bit more discussion involved, but there's a number of things we could address.
Well,
No, I don't know. it's just
Well,
a thought.
here's my thought. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the ADA inventory grant relies on creating a committee. And the process that is outlined in the motion was not utilized for that. So I guess we need to know, is that going to be the process? And would that basically invalidate our ability to go for that ADA grant? Or are we going to drop that motion ultimately and go forward and understand that exactly what I suggested 2 weeks ago can happen, which is you have a situation where you have an emergency and you can't go 10 days publishing and the process to create these committees, you have to kind of just go with it. And that's what you're facing right now because the ADA also requires a 10-person advisory group, it's called, but it's the same exact functioning of what the New York Forward's local planning committee was. It's just nomenclature issues there. So if you want to talk about it, go ahead.
Well, I think there is a difference.
You want to read what you're talking about so everyone knows, or?
That's pretty
It's
long.
long, but
Um,
otherwise there's no context.
Okay, any committee, board, or other ad hoc group hereafter collectively referred to as committee that is not already described in village code, including committee boards and ad hoc groups required for grants, or that is convened for the purpose of generating recommendations to the village board or results in actions to be taken by the village board, shall have its membership determined by the village board as follows. The village staff will publicize on the village website and social media that members are sought, including a description of purpose and duties. Any potential committee member is required to provide the village clerk a letter of interest that includes their background and why they want to be on the committee. People have a maximum of 10 business days from posting to respond. All village board members will have the opportunity to nominate members of the committee from amongst those who have submitted letters. Committee members should be selected based on committee requirements and applicant qualifications. Maximum number of people on the committee and specific members will be approved by the majority of the village board. All committee boards and official ad hoc groups will follow open meetings law unless otherwise stated in code. To clarify, any board member can form their own ad hoc committees, but those committees will serve no official village board function. Now, if I can explain why the ADA is asking for a group of people. I believe there is not a grant committee until there is a grant. The planning, your local planning group was essentially a grant writing committee. Usually grants are written by an individual with, feedback from people, but, that was a little unusual on the New York Forward. You had to, I don't know how much the grant the local planning committee did or didn't do because their meetings were not open to the public and scheduled. And I think that should be corrected. I think any group that's working on village business, except for stated in the code, such as the ethics committee, should meet in public and follow open meeting law. That to me makes a lot of sense. The requirement for posting is to allow people who maybe we don't know, offer their services to the village. Since in the last 3.5 years, we've had tremendous participation by village residents, unseen before that. And I think that needs to continue. And there are more people, there are these people moving in every day that have talent, skills, energy to give the village. I do
Liz,
see.
can I interrupt for 1 second with a question? I don't want to lose these points as you make them. Is this a group required for this grant?
Is this,
Not before the grant.
You
no,
know, I've been asked
so
that.
the group is a list of names.
You have to submit it with grant, correct?
I have to submit the thing. It is not a commitment that is the group that will be the committee. It'll change, just like your local committee. Some people may drop
Well,
off.
so does our planning board and our zoning board, et cetera, et cetera. All for everybody's
Those
change.
defined in the code as to how they get appointed and who selects them. I'm talking about every other group that we form that is not in the code.
This group is required for you to submit this grant. Yes or no? Okay, then it would apply to it.
No, it doesn't.
Ad hoc groups required for grants. It's right there. In case from last week. I'm reading.
Do you have to submit names for this grant application?
Yeah, you submit names.
It's an ad hoc group required for grants. I don't know how you're gonna get around that statement.
I don't think it's a grant group until there's a grant awarded. There is no grant awarded. New York Forward is not awarded to the village yet. Once it is, I expect it would go through this process.
You would be able to apply for this grant if you didn't fill in those names, yea or nay. Exactly. So
I don't look at it
the
that
question ultimately is,
So you're going to say that then we'll take out ad hoc.
I would say that we've tossed this entire motion and realized that if you instill this policy to these types of groups, committees, et cetera, and we have New York Forward local planning committee members here, so they can validate whether I'm right or wrong on this. If you're forcing public meetings, open meetings law on everything, the sign up process and everything else, A, we wouldn't have had a committee in time. B, they wouldn't have been able to do the work they were able to do in any way, shape, or form. So we wouldn't have had a robust New York Forward application at the end of the day if this was the policy here.
The New York Forward, you were informed of it on July 21st.
Liz,
The fact that you worked on it in
intent,
3 weeks, the
intent to
last
apply,
3 weeks is not.
the intent to apply was the first phase, and then we also had to wait for specific guidance from the state with sessions, with office hours, et cetera, too. So you can't just run out there and do a bunch of stuff right off the bat because you got handed this thing. We put in our intent to apply, as you remember, we voted on it here. Then we went to the next process. They called us up, said, we've got a meeting coming up. Please be a part of it. Then office hours after that. In the meantime, Bernadette was great in keeping the local planning committee informed of what was going on at all stages and to start trying to generate ideas. But you're acting like that 20-page document was writing itself in the meantime, and it wasn't. So I don't know what to tell you besides
Well,
it would apply to both or neither. And realistically, I want to say to you, it should apply to either under these circumstances.
Well, I think we can offer something down the middle where we have a caveat within that motion that basically says that due to time constraints, if the board approves waiving this process and allowing whomever to give names, I think we've just solved the problem while still maintaining a process that will reach out and hopefully gather more people, because not every grant is going to be hopefully a last minute grant. These things happen every year, and it's just a matter of knowing about them ahead of time to have more leeway to move forward with them. Yes, they have milestone deadlines that you have to wait for the next step, but it doesn't mean you can't prep for that next step. So I don't see this as unworkable. I do think we need some sort of relief valve here. And if we are in a situation where we are time constrained, so that we're not necessarily bound to the process, but if we're not time constrained, I don't see anything wrong with this process.
I'd like to jump in about the New York Forward process.
Give me a lower volume.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
It's better.
Yes, thank you.
So to give some background of what was happening in the background for New York Forward, I very much took my role very much as to inform the committee as to what was going on, what the requirements were, what they should look into. I probably spammed them so many times with emails. The times that we did have a Zoom meeting, I did submit summary to Terry after that meeting. It is on file if anybody wanted to look into it. Also, I had my contact on the webpage if anybody actually had questions. Additionally, we had Dana and Ray, reach out to you guys after the discussion that you felt like there was enough information toward going your way. But, Dana reached out to you all and we rated as well. Mainly any discussions that happened was based off of, it's just the reality, the time that any of these committees sometimes work on is they figured out times that they could get together and discuss this. They broke out into teams. So just to be very clear to the public, it sounded a little confusing. There is no nefarious sort of, not trying to keep the public involved. It's just a matter of reality of schedules and trying to get all the information together and gathered in time for that application. So I just want that to be very clear. It sounds like this, that wasn't the case. And it's certainly the way, I don't know if that's the intention, but that's the way it sounded like you're describing that they were not being forthcoming. It's just the way and the reality of that, how that had to work out. I don't personally think that we need to, hamstring, I'm coming up with weird terminology today. I don't think we need to limit ourselves. I'm a little concerned about the timeline of having to get, of course, we want more people involved when there's opportunity, but when you're going to require a 2-week process, I'm really concerned that we're not going to have, be able to gather people in time for certain things, whether it be an application or we need some more immediate attention to something. But I just don't think this motion is necessary. And I think that we did, just an example of this grant. I know you did, the protestations that happened at the beginning of this process are similar process that, you're coming up with a list of a committee and to apply for a grant. And I just find that it's a little silly to me. What you're upset about last time is similar in this process. So I don't know. I personally think we should let this go and just move forward with some positive motion that we're, getting some positive traction. I want to see the ADA grant happen. So I don't know. I find this sort of quibbling a little frustrating. So
I think the best course of action here, agenda, I'm trying to look at the right agenda in front of me here, is to move to, I don't believe we have new business. So if we don't have new business, then move to public comment number 1.
Oh, wait, I'm not.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Jump in.
Well, the
I didn't
new
want to interrupt everybody.
business would be the ADA.
Well, you already talked about it earlier. I don't know what there's a motion that'll be made, so I don't think there's anything to add there, but go ahead, Ben.
Well, I just want to say, I like Sean's idea. I do think this is a good government motion for general business where we've had people come here and say, boy, if I knew there was a committee opening, I would have applied, but I didn't even know. And then it's filled before the person knows. And this will address that by making sure that openings are publicized. And I think it's just good government practice. 3 board members up here did feel out of the loop with New York Forward for some time. We didn't know there was a summary of a meeting. And so, that's just good feedback. And that's feedback for Liz too, as she goes through this ADA grant to make sure that doesn't repeat. It does make sense when there's time constraints, as Sean mentioned, and as there was with New York Forward and this grant apparently, to have some kind of middle ground. But even these grants, for example, between after submitting and when we get them, we can go back and apply this kind of process to have official committees. We'll have plenty of time to do that. And I do think it will result in better, more diverse committees, more inclusion. The board will have more buy-in to what's happening and just be in the loop as to what's happening. So in general, I think it's good to have official committees, board appointed, publicized, and to address the timing issue. We could have exceptions for, we could call them preliminary committees or something for applications. And then we go back and finalize later. I think what's proposed is gonna strengthen our processing.
And just to be clear, when you say more diverse, our proposed people for the New York Forward Committee were more diverse than what was shared by Liz originally. We added a Latina business owner, that was really critical. So no, please don't shake your head. There
No,
was,
I'm just saying.
No, no, I'm just-
Individual members, we're talking about the process.
no, I'm just referring to what Ben had mentioned. So I just want to be clear to the public that, maybe your concern is diversity, but we added diversity to the committee. So I just want that to be clear that that wasn't an issue here. I'm concerned when we use that language that, it makes it appear that we weren't being thoughtful in that manner, and we were. So again, I'm so proud that we added a Latina business owner to our committee to have a voice there. So
That's great, but the thing is.
That's great.
No, but I'm saying-
And women property owners and among other things as well.
The thing is, you and Bernadette selected them. We were not included in, we weren't able to make suggestions. And those meetings were all scheduled with no communication, frankly, from the mayor's office in those whole 3 weeks, including a comment about how you were going to take a vacation from communicating. So it was.
Yeah, I stated that to her because she had, last time we made an agreement to have a quick meeting, decided to bog it down. I said she had no integrity, and tonight we're having a long meeting again, so.
Well, the thing is, this is a good motion. If we need to put in some sort of safety valve for grant applications to provide in grant applications a list of proposed members, but the committee that works on a grants usually take a year or even longer. And that's a working committee, and that committee should be appointed by the whole board, not just a few members of the board, and should have open meetings. I think you can contrast it with a comprehensive plan committee. They operate under the open meeting law. They publish their minutes, their agendas. They've been working for a long time, and they are a very effective committee, and they're very open.
Liz, you had the opportunity when we did the intent to apply form to direct who the committee should or shouldn't be. You approved me to submit an application, or the pre-application, they call it that. I did so, but we didn't have a committee listed at that point in time, nor did you ask any of the 10 members on your list if they wanted to be on it.
Because there wasn't time. It was
Okay,
basically,
there we go.
that was a suggested list for us to call and contact. Now,
Okay,
I think that's all
history. I mean, it's not-
the history is unfortunately directing the future right now.
Well, what I suggest is you edit that for next meeting, and then we see if it's something we can accept.
And I would also send it to the other board members to allow them to comment.
Of course.
and on the ADA, my plan is tomorrow to send you the complete application with the names. I've asked already for you to suggest of all the members on this board to suggest people. Haven't received any suggestions, but that is a much more open process than the one you did.
Seeing that I don't have the application in front of me, we had the intent to apply in front of us when we voted on it. I don't think I agree with that necessarily, but I do appreciate you doing the work on this. I just think that a consistency is needed. I am fine with you laying out the committee you've got, the way you're doing it. If you're gonna take charge of overseeing this grant and ask me to sign it at the end of the day, I have no problem with that, Liz. I think this was, fortunately, you're not viewing this as, I'm sitting here with no committee list, except for the one you had, which was not meeting the standards in the airport at that point in time. And we took 4 of them. Some of them didn't want to be on it or couldn't be on it for various reasons. Well, it apparently
Will
isn't
you
fine
stop?
because, excuse me?
You stop.
No, I
Saying
won't,
the
I
same
won't
thing.
stop, Liz, because you continue
I'll-
to put
the
forth things, you continue to put forth things that try to limit the ability to operate and do things for this village. And so, no, I will not stop. I will continue to do what I can to help move the village forward in the ways that I'm allowed to or able to. You gave me a blank slate with the committee that I had to submit within 2 days in that situation. You got 4 from today. And we called up every member. So yeah, short time, we called up every member and said, do you want to be on it? Some of yours, some not. And we got a committee together that was defined correctly based on the grant requirements and fulfilled
I'm not
diversity across the
arguing that
board.
You did a good job of that. I'm saying the process.
No good
did
deed goes
not-
unpunished. Okay, I get it.
did not include us. And this motion that I plan on making says, I will complete the application, which will be reviewed and approved by the board prior to submitting.
How?
By email vote. You'll get it tomorrow. You can read it. You want to change the committee members, suggest other committee members, there is still the time to do that.
Madam Attorney?
What are you're voting on? What, you can't do any vote by email.
We can, not
We
vote,
we
the
do,
voting
we
is
do call
here.
arounds or.
Call
by-
arounds to say, is the grant final?
I have no problem with that. I mean,
Just
if
get
you're
a
giving,
consensus.
well, yeah, you're getting a consensus. If you're giving, Liz approval tonight to go forward and do that.
And
It's
for him to sign
I have
away.
to sign.
right, and approval to sign it, right?
I'm signing a document that's not technically approved by in its format.
But you do that often when you have me review documents.
No, I get that, but at the same time, usually things that we're all in agreement on, this committee approach is, I think, one of the concerns on this one.
When you,
Yeah.
yeah, the only other thing you can do is hold a special meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you want to do that.
I'm okay with approving this and then looking at the, okay, we've done that with other motions where like the contract isn't complete, but we give the mayor authority
Right.
to sign and execute it. I mean, we've done this many times. I mean, it's a good project and I hate to see it. We have
Nobody's trying to kill the project. We're just trying to make sure that we're using consistent
Yeah, so I think it is.
rule
consistent,
approach here.
Right, to authorize you to sign a letter, that we've, have an understanding of what the purpose is.
And you've had this last week, the opportunity to suggest people.
Thursday.
Thursday, yeah. So, I mean, suggest somebody, I'll call them and see whether they want to be on this list, but I fully see us going through the vetting and advertising, what if we get the grant. I'm not guaranteeing any of these people that they will be permanently on,
Then why would they even bother
because they
stepping
want,
up for this?
because we need a list of names, and they're interested in it, and they're, we don't guarantee any volunteer.
Any further new business to be discussed by the board? Let's go to public comment number 1, please. Anybody wishing to speak, 3 minutes?
Is that just agenda item?
I know it's anything.
Okay, Donna Martin, 20 Chesterwood Court. I agree, there are probably lots of people in this village that would like to be more involved and want to be on committees. So can we be proactive and maybe send out something in the newsletter? Asking people if they're interested and accumulating a list of people that want to be involved.
Bob Bush is actually asking me about the newsletter today. Bob, you go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. First of all, that's discussion you guys just had.
Can I get your name?
Bob Bush, 71 Church Ave. That discussion you guys had, can't most of that happen in email? You guys bickering back and forth and crap? Does it have to happen in front of the public?
I try.
That's just my thought. In my hand, I hold a newsletter called The Voice from January 24th. Christine, you should know, you know this because it's from you. That was the last time we received any kind of newsletter. Julia, if I'm not mistaken, is it $6,000 that was allocated to this?
Exact dollar amount, I don't know, but there was an
It was
amount.
4.
I'm pretty sure it was 6.
for-
Anyways, it doesn't matter the amount. Is the fact that it's been 9 months since we received it. And you guys, and there's been, this is a front and back newsletter, very informative, and I was glad to receive it. The amount of stuff that's happened in the last 9 months, could probably do 2 pages worth of this. And we hadn't received any, but we have money allocated for it. So if we're not going to use the money for the newsletter that Donna, you mentioned, why don't we give it to something that could be useful, such as, I don't know if we have upcoming events as far as Christmas goes, but put it towards that, because you're obviously not going to use it towards this. It's just going to sit there and what's it going to do? Collect dust? I mean, come on. Use the money, bring it or allocate some results.
So who's responsible?
Ray,
Ray out in 16 Middlebrook Avenue. Liz, to your point, I was asked about this ADA committee. And if I'm asked to be on a committee, I think anyone in this room that knows me will tell you that I work on that committee and I work damn hard about it. And to have you sit there and say, well, we don't guarantee anybody to be on the committee, don't ask me anymore. Okay, that's simple. I'll put in whatever work you need, but don't ask me and then say, oh, well, we don't really need you. That's silly. I was informed earlier last week, that there was over $500 worth of damage done to the new Kelly Park toddler playground. And I take that not personal, but I take it personal. I think it's time now that we allocate maybe some of that money from those newsletters to more security down in that park. And I am volunteering, Liz, I'm volunteering. I'm not a committee, but I'm volunteering right now to supervise the parents of this child who wrecked this thing in fixing that. I will show them exactly how to put it together when it all is said and done. Point 1.
can I say one thing to that, Ray?
Sure.
I wanted to not talk about that necessarily because I had not talked to Dave about whether they had followed their leads on it. There were, now that we're going down this road, there were instances of bathroom vandalism on, I believe it was Thursday, or we found it on Thursday, on Friday after trying to repair that. So to keep the bathrooms open into the first weekend of October, which was the intention at Kelly Park. Some further damage was done by unrelated folks, unrelated teens, most likely, from what the camera footage showed, to include what happened to the playground set as well. They do have pretty good cameras on it now to use, and they are following those leads. So I just wanted everybody to be assured that those are being followed. I didn't want to necessarily give that away until I knew that they were either close or apprehended whoever did it. And but since we're at that point where you said it publicly, I did want to address it. So thank you.
And I appreciate that. But I still, the offer is still there. I will be more than happy to supervise the parents in fixing that. Thank you.
Yes.
Second point, there was a pretty bad storm went through here today, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right, and Liz talked about trees sometimes falling down with these storms and all that. Did anybody see the news about the hurricane hitting the coast up in Maine and absolutely devastating Nova Scotia and all that? I have a question for the board. I was here a couple of weeks ago and talked about FEMA and what we have to do to qualify for grants to take care of hurricane and all sorts of disasters like that. Could I just see a show of hands of anybody that has even looked at the FEMA requirements? You haven't done anything with it yet, though? Yeah, okay. I would like to see a motion put on the next, and I don't know how you do this, a motion put on the next meeting that we add the requirement to all elected positions that within 60 days of election, not taking office, of election, which we put it around January 1st, when you take office, that you are required to have this training done. Protect our village is what we're about. We're talking about safety, and hopefully it'll include police, fire, and EMS in your safety committee that we're talking about. But so that we can get funding in case we need it from FEMA. It's a simple thing. They're computer courses. You don't have to go anywhere. But it shows your commitment to the village and the job you're doing, because you may be the one that's in charge of Sean is away for a weekend, and Liz is away, and Frank's away, and Bernadette's away, and then you're up when the hurricane hits. What are you gonna do? Thank you.
Yeah.
Gina Morosi, 10 Old Glory Lane. I am representing the events group and ask tonight because Mark Black is celebrating Rosh Hashanah, our Jewish friend that wants to help us celebrate Christmas in the village. So with that being said, I'm talking about the last,
Jay.
what is it, Jay? Thank you, because I don't have my glasses on. We are seeking $2,500 to do a banner project, an ornament project. This will go out to all these schools for the children to design. And to tell you the truth, I wanted $2,500 of that money that you're all now trying to get from the newsletter, because we're entering the last quarter of the year, so I doubt we're going to get 4 newsletters out. So if it's possible, we'd like to provide this for the children. We're also bringing back Breakfast with Santa, which has been a longtime favorite that's been gone by the wayside, and that'd be the day after the parade. I have several members of our event group here tonight that to show support that we really want to have this done to bring back these events. If you have any questions about it, I can answer them now or wait till you bring up the motion.
Thank you. Well, I guess we'll.
No questions?
I guess I'll go.
This is the first time I've heard of this
No, it's not.
event.
No, it's not. It's been brought up last meeting. It was brought up 2
There was
meetings
something
ago.
about it, but there's nothing.
It was supposed to go on the agenda the same night as the birdhouse project, but was full.
No, she's talking about the events committee, I think. is what she's
We're not
talking
an events committee, we're an events group, we're ASK, which is the non-for-profit that
So
we,
you're representing not is the committee members, are they,
we're not a committee, Liz, I just said that.
okay, you're not for profit, right?
That's the non-for-profit, right? We
And they're
also,
members of this not for profit.
we're also members of an advisory committee to the mayor. Group, not committee. No, I'm saying it.
Okay, advisory group. to the mayor.
And I recall, and just to let it be known, that your parting words after the special meeting last week were that you need to look into and address and see who's running the events.
Yeah,
Because what? Are we doing a bad job? Or you have a complaint?
no, I do not have a complaint, but there is a separate organization, a nonprofit that is managing the events, then.
Supplementing.
Hmm?
Supplementing.
Okay, we'll discuss this later. It's-
No other questions?
Well, they'll have the opportunity to ask questions during the motion itself, so.
Okay.
Anybody else? So Anna's first, then we'll go with you, darling.
Yeah, Stanko, 32 Kent Street. I don't even know what to ask because that last discussion, Bob, I agree. I was so confused about what you were talking about. That is the gist of your motion, Liz, that any committee or group or whatever that works on something for the village has to go by the open meetings law?
And the official committee. I mean, if it's working on village business, then it should meet under open meetings law. If it's a separate Friends of Wiswall, they can do what they want, or a not-for-profit, they're not under, but it is a group that is assigned to work on village business, it should be open to the public.
I guess a further way to define it would be if that committee is going to bring recommendations to the board for ultimate approval of something associated with what they're working on, then it should be open meetings just so that the public can be involved.
Although we do acknowledge that there is no law that requires that, correct?
Right, right, because they're advisory only, you're not
There you go.
required to, but if the village wants you to have an open meeting, there's nothing precluding them from saying have an open meeting.
Okay, so the first part of your motion, I like that you maybe advertise things on your web. We're having this. Is anybody interested? Obviously, yes, we have some younger folks here. They're not getting involved. That's all good because some of us are getting old and tired. As far as an open meeting law though, you know what? You're gonna cut out 95% of your longtime volunteers because we're still working. You may, if you've got to advertise something and say 10, we have to have this meeting 2 weeks from Thursday at 7 o'clock. Boy, most of the groups I've been on, we're doing it by a wing and a prayer when everybody, oh, can we meet Thursday? Can you meet Tuesday? Can you meet
Yes,
Tuesday? No, you can't
exactly.
meet Tuesday. Okay, we can meet Wednesday. Donna, when can you be there? That's how we work. And it's, and all you're doing is, what was that word? Hamstringing any
It was good
committees
word
and
choice,
groups.
by the way.
If it's something for a grant, I completely understand that. Yes, you've got to have your group together. You've got to do it. Open meetings law, we don't need to, when you're working on something, you do it, then you bring it to a trustee or we could have, or somebody could be appointed saying, hey, Donna, you're gonna be the head of this group. Can you report back to Sean because he wants to know about this and Sean can share the information. But having the public involved at every meeting,
It's up to the
boy,
public.
oh boy.
The comprehensive plan has done this
That-
whole last year. They publicized. the
And how long
meetings,
is, again, let's go back to that, because I can say to you again, there were 5 of us that worked on zoning stuff, and we had stuff just about set, and in 3 months, and we were abolished. This comprehensive plan committee's been going for over a year, and how close are we to getting our zoning done?
Another year.
Point made. Sometimes you have too many people, too many aspects, too many suggestions, too much clutter going on. We don't need bigger government. We need smaller government. Let's keep our committees local. Oh yeah, let's have the Vittles on this committee because they do skateboarding.
Sorry,
There
Chris.
may be anything on there. I think Ray would be great on this.
Nothing that prevents that.
But you're saying that you want any committee that's gonna meet, have to go by the open meetings law.
Village business is the village is the public.
So
Well, I'm just saying, I disagree, because you're gonna handcuff the rest of us from serving.
out of respect to try to move this along, this will not be voted on tonight. It sounds like, Sean, I think you suggested coming back next meeting with it. So to be continued, point taken, and appreciate the point.
Thank you.
Darlene?
My name is Darlene McGraw. I actually live in the town of Half Moon, but I do actually ride my tricycle all the way from Half Moon by exit 9 and 146 all the way up here to do business. And I will have my Ballston Spa shirt on.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I love Ballston Spa, as crazy as I am.
We love you, Darlene.
I wanted to let you guys know that Title II of the ADA states that all programs, services, and activities have to be accessible to people, to qualified individuals with disabilities. I've noticed, and this has been ongoing in Village of Ballston Spa, there's poor sidewalks. People often walk, or as I call it, roll their wheelchairs from Doubleday Woods to Stewart and Hannaford on Route 50, on busy Route 50. They roll their wheelchairs on the side of the road because they can't utilize the sidewalks. And I know that when I ride my tricycle, that section of Route 50 is very dangerous because of the way it's curved. And people that have to roll their wheelchairs face very similar circumstances that I do, because they fall into the possible tipsy side. So I feel that getting better infrastructure and working with New York State DOT and finding better options to work with the state would be a very good idea. It's not just a village or a state option. You guys got to work together with this. The other side of the story is you guys have to learn how to work with the state on another side. Social services is a county service, but it's also within the village limits and it's also on a state roadway. But it's very hard to get there because the bus does not go there. CDTA no longer goes there. So if you guys want to chat with CDTA and figure out how people are getting from here right onto the main part of the village all the way over there, chat with them more, because there might be sidewalks. If there are, they're cracked, they're high up, they're low, you know, I mean, there's not really an easy way to get from here to there. Route 67 is very dangerous. I mean, I'm probably the only nutcase that's got the crazy head way to go on all these crazy roadways. But those are just some of the options. I did go to the village hall probably about a month, give or take, and I asked to speak if I could speak with the mayor. I asked to, you know, I gave my information, my contact information. I never got any form of contact. I don't know if that's because the mayor never got my information or just never contacted me, but I will give it to you before I leave and also to Carla. So please feel free to reach out to me and to the rest of the board. Feel free to reach out to me, and also CDTC, please take their suggestion on getting the ADA transition plan. I'm here for you, not here to be a bully. And please stop BSing at these darn meetings. There's no child care facility here. This is a library. There's no child care facility here. If you want to go to child care facility, the Ballston Spa, BCSS is over there. Go over there. Thanks.
Well,
I get what you're saying.
as you, Darlene, as you heard earlier in the meeting, one of the things, and I've been paying attention to your stuff with respect to mechanical, et cetera, is, as I said, making sure that health, safety, welfare issues allow us to make the changes to the sidewalks, unlike what the current code sort of doesn't allow in a direct, instantaneous type of approach, is something we address. I'm glad that Carla could hear you say it, because it makes her job as she tries to revise this code, not necessarily easier, but for her to understand that this wasn't just a fluky thing by us, that we are hamstrung by current code.
Word of the day.
It is, but as well, I did get your information. Unfortunately, I went away that weekend, forgot to call you, so that is my bad. However, I do want to talk to you next time you come through. Give me a call. Do you have my number?
I do not.
I will give you that, and call me, and we'll get a meeting together, grab lunch or something, because I want to hear your thoughts on a lot of different things, and I do value your opinions.
And Darlene, as well, you'll be happy to know that we've been working for some time on that Route 50 issue. Crosswalk, I've been over there and I've actually seen people doing exactly the same, rolling along Route 50 and taking photos of that and sent it to DOT so that they can see what's going on. And we are working on that with DOT. And hopefully this time next year, we'll have a crosswalk so you can have good sidewalks going up the, you know, from Doubleday up there. And I didn't realize the bus had stopped going to social services because there is no sidewalk. I've seen people pushing strollers along the road, 67 to get there. That's a real issue.
Well, we're waiting for more people to go over to the cemetery. I mean, look for homes there because it's dangerous and, you know.
Just to add some specifics to it, I think if you, in regarding the sidewalks from Doubleday Woods upwards towards the Rosewood Court, I would implore you to reach out to New York State DOT Region 1.
Yeah.
And give you the number. It's,
Oh, I have his number.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I got it. I didn't want to speak, I'm sorry.
And you don't have my number, I'm her.
But, if you, ask for, Reed Schulte's,
Yeah,
you know, Reed. okay.
yeah.
He can maybe initiate a case study on the sidewalks in that area. And then identify locations that are non-ADA compliant in the sidewalks. And at least that puts it on the radar. And then the next time they come through to do whatever paving project or whatever, they can address some of those locations, the residency, Saratoga residency. And yeah, in regards to the 67, that would probably the best course of action if you wanted to have some sort of sidewalk, like a pedestrian connection to the social services, would be to, unfortunately, I don't think a village can, but a town can apply to the tip for a local project. And because that would be more in that realm of a local project administered by the state, because it's a state route. But yeah, that would be probably the most feasible course to have something.
I'm looking into more ways that I can see if I can get you guys grants or something and stuff. I'm looking personally out of my own time and stuff. I mean, this is what I'm doing on my own time. I mean, I'm not getting paid for anything I'm doing. I mean, I'm doing my hard work for you guys and for the public. I mean, so.
Yeah, we did have a link to social services as the second sort of priority on the pedestrian bicycle plan to go for some grants in order to do it. It is quite difficult because of the terrain there, gullies, etc. But I know the county is very interested in having a pedestrian way to get to their building.
And last thing, whenever we're redoing roads, we're using CHIPS money, and CHIPS requires us from the state to make the accessibility either side of the road, sidewalks, etc., ADA compliant in those cases. So in cases of sidewalks, we're finding that might not be fully yet. Once we redo that road in the next 11 years, granted is the cycle, but I don't think we're at the need for the full 11-year cycle. Those get addressed on those roads. So for instance, High Street, to the degree that there's anything that hasn't been done on East High Street, that'll be taken care of when East High Street is redone. Front Street in the spring is going to be a big important one, because I know the constant complaint about deficiencies on Front Street with respect to that as well. So we're working on making sure that those get done in due course. And then if there's emergencies in the meantime, like I said, we'll be able to go out and handle those as we need to.
I do know that the village of Ballston was also on the list that did get a grant, did get some extra money. I forgot how much, but they did get, Village Ballston did get some extra money from
ARPA,
funding.
I'm gonna guess, ARPA? The American
No,
Recovery Act.
I think you're probably talking about the master plan that we got, and we did apply for an implementation grant, but we did not.
We got this,
See,
we got the study money, but we didn't get the.
we didn't get the implementation, so, but there is more grants coming out, and we will apply again.
Well, that's not for here. This is for the public. That's not for here.
But Sean, you're suggesting, Darlene, go to town of Melton to ask.
Or
talk
well,
about
if the
it.
county's involved, the county can also be a
I think the
sponsor of
county
the
would be
project.
the
So
logical applicant, because they're the destination.
We have two hands I see on Zoom, so Jennifer?
Yeah.
Could you tell us who they are? There's Natalia. Natalia, if you can unmute, you are good to go.
Hi, can you hear me?
You can.
Hi, everybody. This is Natalia Martinez. I live at 9 Pheasant Run, and I own Play Hollow on 40 Front Street. I just wanted to, sorry I couldn't be there tonight, but my little ones are, doing their thing. But I wanted to throw my support. I've been talking to Mark about the programming, and I know that there's been a lot of discussion about diversity today. And I just want to support the art committee's efforts on the holiday programming, where they are really trying to highlight the the various ways that we celebrate in Ballston Spa. And I think it would be really nice to see that as part of our holiday programming that's going to be happening. So I just wanted to speak to that and support what others had mentioned earlier in the public commentary about how adding more complications to the ways we participate in the village, it is gonna completely go against what you're trying to achieve, because we are adding more meetings is going to cut out a lot of people from being able to participate. So you're going to be able to only engage with people that have the luxury of time and ability to meet over and over again. And that is not a lot of people. So I just wanted to support what other people were saying about that and the holiday programming. So thank you.
Thank you.
There was nothing in that, what I was proposing that would add meetings. It was just that the meetings be posted and be held.
But you had a lot of structure there that we don't have.
Yeah.
It's regular schedule is pretty.
Let's go to our next, we've got more hands I want to zoom since that, so I want to make sure that we're get through these. Dave Womer, I will demote Natalia just so that that is handled. And okay. Dave, you are good to go.
Can you hear me?
That is certainly not Dave.
Joke's on you. This is actually Dana Wilmer, 18 Coronado Way. I am the executive administrator for the Bsdpa, and I also just wanted to buzz in and give my support to the arts group and the events group. As an organization, the Bsdpa is an event-heavy organization, and that's something that we've really had to take a look at and examine to see what we can actually do, and we've had to let some things slide. And one of those things was Breakfast with Santa, and I was so overjoyed when Donna Dardaris called me to say that they wanted to take this on. It's such a great event for the community, and I know how hard it is to get volunteers and how much money and time and effort and planning all these events take. And so the fact that we have such a dedicated group in our village that is wanting to volunteer and help out with this and make Ballston Spa such a magical place, I just say bravo and just wanted to lend my support as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. And next.
Keith Lewis.
Keith Lewis, 38 East High Street, Ballston Spa, New York. I'm on the Historic Commission, and we are beholden to the open meetings law. We will be deciding on a roof on Wednesday, and we were not able to coordinate members until Sunday. Sunday we coordinated. I guess Monday we sent it off that we're meeting. Wednesday we're meeting. So this is a very common occurrence. We are managing to do it with our members. And I would suggest that with things that are village business, that we are transparent, we are open, we are accessible. That was the commitment that all of the elected officials that are sitting there tonight on this board, every one of you made. Frank, Bernadette, all the rest of the trustees as well. You all committed to be open and accessible and making sure that you're involving everyone. On this recent grant, Bernadette, that you worked on, you did not involve anyone from the Historic Commission. You didn't ask anyone to be involved. There was no communication that went through any of us, not any of us, not through any of our board members. There was no official communication that went through the board members. So I'm disappointed in that. I do think it's important that you get more people involved. I don't think that's problematic. I think that this legislation that you're proposing, I look forward to hearing more about it. And then as well, talking about these additional funding of events. I think it's wonderful. I love events. I want to see more events. You have an opportunity when you set the budget to discuss where you're going to put your money. And that is the time when everyone can be involved. Everyone in this village knows when those meetings are going on, they happen. People get involved, they talk about it, the money is proposed, people set forth what they'd like to see, they rally, you decide on a budget, you move forward. You have emergencies, you decide on emergency money, you move it forward. But you guys committed about infrastructure. My family talked about the water and possibly having to boil water. That was the kind of messaging, Frank, that you and Bernadette did. And now we find out that maybe 2 years from now, we need to paint the water tower. I'd like to see the infrastructure addressed. Those are the issues. And Darlene, I want you on that ADA. You got a good voice. Liz, you guys should vote and decide how to put her on there so that she can give some information on it. Thanks very much.
So I just want to make sure I'm getting something clear because I may have lost in translation through Zoom or something, but Keith, is your statement that, oh, well,
Can I just?
well, let me, I'll ask the question aloud. If the question is, or the statement is essentially that if a group wants to give money or contribution toward an event, then they shouldn't be able to do it because it wasn't budgeted for the event itself. I think that's hogwash. I think that is the epitome of what we are not about in this village, that type of attitude. We rely on other organizations, left, right, and center to help support our events. And I don't know if he loves events so much, maybe you should get out to more of them to understand just that point right there, because that is what drives every event in this village of Ballston Spa. Go ahead. Thank you. Yes, it was actually.
Trust, Mr. Lewis's comments regarding New York Forward. At his recommendation, I did reach out to the chair of the Historic Commission. The Historic Commission chair noted that the reason why I didn't reach out was because the New York Forward proposed zone was not within the Historic Commission zone. When I reached out to John Cromie, the chair of the Historic Commission, I said, you know what, we had one of your board members ask that your committee, your commission give input on New York Forward. And the chair had emailed back and basically saying it is not within the zone and we didn't think that, the commission needed to weigh in. Again, the survey was open to everyone. Certainly any of the commission members could have, and I think maybe a few have commented through that route. So, it's not true that I didn't reach out. Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Lewis's suggestion of it, and I did. And ultimately, the chair decided that it was not applicable.
It's the same thing happened during the PDD where I was accused of not going to the Historic Commission, and I did actually go to John Cromie asking the question that was relevant to be vetted through his organization's commission at that time, and the same accusation was made of me. So apparently the communication or the composition of that commission right now is not very effective. If that's what's happening here, the word's not getting through that way. That's all I can say. It's twice now.
Comment that I did not understand.
The word supplemental was used, and that word supplemental is what was used to talk about what Ask is doing. So perhaps you used the wrong word then, I don't know. Keith, if you'd like to explain yourself, you saw his hand, his hand's up. I'll give him a chance.
I didn't hear the question, but specifically, I raised that concern and you went to John, but you didn't go to John and say you would expand the area as you did with some of the business owners who raised concern. If you would approach the Historic Commission early, so that we could have given some input about perhaps pushing the boundaries farther, or perhaps creating fluidity between them. It's a matter of not involving. This whole thing is about being able to involve more people. Now, what's the question, Frank, that I didn't do?
I'll get another one. That's an R2 and R1 historic district, right? Correct?
Frank, it's only East High Street, which I don't understand, but it's East High and West High.
That's an R2 and an R1, correct? On that street?
I'm not part of the zoning. Yes, Frank, I believe it's R1.
Historic district.
R1.
Saying yes, so.
Grandfathered, some are R2.
The map would have had to have been required to be part of the central business district to qualify for New York Port. So how would we have expanded, excuse me, how would we have expanded to go to High Street, which was an R1 and R2?
It's not based on your local zoning, which you describe as your
You can't-
focus area. That's not required at all. If you wanted to include part of R1 or R2.
You would have lost the grant.
It's a matter of having the conversation. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and split hairs. Frank, I think you're great at being able to position things. I'm saying that it would have been nice to have been involved in the conversation. This is about conversation. It's not about decision making. It's about process and conversation.
And at the PDD, you made the same accusation toward me. You were wrong. You made it toward Bernadette. Now you were wrong. So that's that. Thank you.
I'm Frank. I'm sorry. I can't possibly meet up to your standards, but listen, I'm still a resident here, unlike your sister, and I'm volunteering my information.
What did I have to do with that? No, you know what? That was a
Because
let's move on. Stick to flowers.
Everybody, calm down.
Yes.
The statement, it was made by me that an R2 and R1 would not qualify, which is accurate. And keep the statement made by you twice is that your commission is not getting input or to have input on these things. That is patently incorrect. And talk to John Cromie, your chairman, if you believe that I'm being dishonest.
you approached John after I made a statement 2 days before you were getting ready to put your proposal out. And I think that's great that you at least approached him, but it wasn't early enough to be able to have any worthwhile conversation.
And that
You'll
was
have another
true for
chance.
the rest of the board as well. We only got involved in the last 2 weeks.
That was by your choice, Liz, because the intent to apply was done in July, wasn't that?
It's not gonna be productive to rehash it all.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Move forward.
Can I get a motion that the attached budget transfers be approved?
Mayor?
Krista, are you going last minute out here? Go ahead.
Again, Chris Duke, Keeling Drive, Boston Spot. I had no intent to speak. I only speak if I see stuff that I feel needs to be addressed. Again, to move the village forward, and there's a lot of conversation stuff going on. I attend a lot of meetings. I attend county meetings, attend school board meetings, attend village board meetings, volunteer, raise my family, work to say, try to do as much as I can for this village, for my family, and for the community. And I love to give credit where credit is due. One thing this board does well is you don't inject like the county meeting, everybody out into the hallway so you can have an executive session, which was poorly planned and doesn't really add to wanting to attend future county meetings if I'm going to be kicked down the hallway. That's my time, and my time is pretty precious. I understand theirs as well. You don't do that. I appreciate that. I'd love you to appreciate our time a little bit more though, and not have these meetings go on as long as they do. I do like the interchange with members of the community. You don't get that at a school board meeting. Oftentimes things go on deaf ears and you're lucky if you get a response in 72 hours. And unfortunately that does trickle down into Kelly Park and other things happening with vandalism. There's a definitely ongoing problem in our schools right now. And part of it is just because the policy focuses on everywhere but what should be addressed towards our children and towards our community. Getting off on a tangent though. I strictly have to build on everything that was mentioned already with motion K that was brought up during the last meeting. It was discussed briefly here, and that will be tabled for vote on the next meeting. We're lucky 90% of any committee, 90% of any group, again, to make things happen when they happen. Again, it's a hope and a prayer most of the time. And I mean, I like to count myself among the younger group, although I'm getting on in age too. Younger group is just as impacted. We have kids, we have families, we have jobs. We can't sit to a set schedule. We can't sit through open meeting laws because again, I'm hearing communication, but I'm also hearing a lot of control. People want control. Everybody wants their hand in the pot. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen, or that doesn't add to moving forward for the village. It matters to who can have their name on what. I run a group where you get involved in a lot, and unfortunately, we have other groups get upset with us if their name's not attached to something. Again, I encourage anybody, whether it's on Zoom or in the audience, if you want to get involved, volunteer. I have a lot of people tell me what to do with my group, but when it comes time to getting your hands dirty, what do you do? They offer wonderful suggestions, but they will not turn out, they will not do it. They won't even sit in a meeting to give you their feedback and what's impacting them. So again, I love to give them credit where credit's due. This board, for the most part, New York board, I'm glad that paperwork got out there. I don't know if I had sat there and I had worked on it a little bit and got this much fire from the community because they didn't feel they were involved and they felt their hand was slapped or they were hurt, or other board members, they feel they weren't as actively involved in choosing who sat on that committee. I don't know if I'd want to push further initiatives. I don't know if I'd want to submit the application. I don't know if I'd want to apply to the grant. I'd say, great, have at it, have fun. We're going to miss out on 2.25 million or 4.5 million. So again, I applaud it for getting done under the circumstances it was done. I can understand Motion K wanting to get more people in committees, but I unfortunately do think it's going to be a double-edged sword. Because again, when you have to be structured under a set schedule or open meeting laws, or you have to be vetted and processed through I got to submit a letter of intent, I got to submit my qualifications, and I got to wait 10 days and whether or not you approve me, and then what's the approval done on? So again, I just strongly recommend when that does come up for vote, throw it away. We don't need that. This village comes together when it needs to come together. Committees are formed. I would probably suggest with the newsletter, though, get back on that, get that out. What committees in there? I'd love to know about them. I've had people here before talk to me after meetings and say, you should get on more committees. I'd love to know about them so I can volunteer for them, but I can tell you, if I got to submit qualifications, a letter of intent, wait 10 days, twiddle my thumbs till you approve me, I'm not going to do it. I've got more important things to do. And I like to think that moving this village forward is pretty important for my family and for this village. But again, that's just more control, more red tape. Throw it out. It's not necessary.
Thank you. Can I get a motion that the attached budget transfers be approved?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Raymond. Trustee Bsdpa. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that Bsdpa be granted permission to conduct the annual holiday parade on 12/2/22, beginning at 6:30 p.m. The permit will be issued upon receipt of proof of insurance. Trustee Bsdpa. Trustee Cormos. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ray, can you validate what I'm about to read? Make sure that it's accurate.
Oh, I was hoping you would. I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so it may just be Lions then.
I'm almost positive it's Lions.
We're gonna keep you in it. If it's not you guys,
I'll
we'll
let you know.
fix it. Frank Blair was a little more in what he was saying, who was responsible for, and then that conflicted with what we had already. So I meant to ask you that earlier. Can I get a motion that the village authorizes the Bsdpa Lions Club and or the Bsdpa Rotary to stain the bollards at Kelly Park in the upcoming weekends as weather permits, labor and supplies to be provided by the organization or organizations doing the work?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Raymond. Trustee Bsdpa, discussion.
What are flowers?
Those things that stop you.
Oh, those.
Yeah.
Posts. They're lack of better.
Sure, right? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that the village authorizes the library to move forward with the expenditure for asbestos testing as outlined in the master plan in the amount of $1,795. Trustee Corls, Trustee Baskin, discussion. Sure hope not. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion the village authorizes the mayor to execute an agreement with Teal Becker and Chiramonte CPA for auditing services covering a 3-year period. First year pricing is not to exceed $23,000, and a 5% increase will apply for the 2 following years. In addition, the proposal includes Teal Becker providing a single audit as needed during the term of this agreement that will cost an additional $5,000 to $10,000. Trustee Baskin, Trustee Bsdpa, discussion. That's a different bird because it could be more involved depending on what the project is. How do you?
Yeah. That's
Good. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I agree with you on the general mundane audit though, or whatever you want to call it, financial statement. We needed to take them down. They wanted not to exceed at least. Can I get a motion to approve the attached resolution to grant permission in New York State DOT to adjust water valve boxes located at New York Route 50, Milton Avenue at Front Street, Washington Avenue, Malta Avenue, in the Village of Ballston Spa, Saratoga County. The resolution, I apologize for this. I forgot that I would need to read this probably, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, by the way, the storm knocker network outside didn't bring anything earlier today.
Do you need it?
Do you have it?
I have.
I'll need it. Spectrum does?
Now.
Yeah. So I couldn't connect for printing.
You have to tweak it as you go.
Was this what I?
That was the sample design.
A resolution by the Village of Ballston Spa granting authority to the state of New York to adjust the Village of Ballston Spa owned water facilities on Route 50 included in PIN 1810.16 traffic signal rebuild SFY 18 to 19 project. This is resolution number 2 of 2022. Is that accurate? Terry, do you remember any of the resolutions we've had this year? I've read at least one. I remember that. Resolution to be numbered in sequential order for 2022. Whereas the New York State Department of Transportation proposes traffic signal modifications on Route 50 located in the Village of Ballston Spa, Town of Ballston, Saratoga County, PIN 1810.16. And whereas the Village of Ballston Spa approves of such project in the state of New York will include as part of the construction of the above mentioned project, height adjustment of existing water valve boxes as needed pursuant to Article 2, Section 10, Subdivision 24 of the State Highway Law, as shown on the contract plans relating to the project and meeting the requirements of the owner. And whereas the Village of Ballston Spa maintains water facilities on Route 50, Milton Avenue, within the project limits, and whereas the service life of the adjusted and or replaced utilities has not been extended, and whereas the state will provide for the construction of the above mentioned work as shown on the contract plans relating to the above mentioned project and at no cost to the village. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Ballston Spa by means of resolution grants permission to the state of New York to complete the above mentioned work performed on the above mentioned project. The Village of Ballston Spa shall continue to maintain or cause to be maintained at its own expense the adjusted facilities performed as stated above, as above stated and as shown on the contract plans. And be it further resolved that Frank S. Rossi Jr., the mayor of the Village of Ballston Spa, has the authority to sign with the concurrence of the village's legal counsel and by the village board any and all documentation with the state of New York that may be necessary as a result of this project as it relates to the Village of Ballston Spa. And be it further resolved that the clerk of the Village of Ballston Spa is hereby directed to electronically transmit signed, sealed, notarized, and stamped certified copy of the foregoing resolution to the New York State Department of Transportation. Resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Can I get we've got the motion in the second already, correct?
No,
No, we did not. Okay, can I get the motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Cormo, second. Second by trustee Pandanza. Discussion?
Just tell me what the word box is and what it looks like and how big it is. I mean, where is it? Is it something big that they have to redo or what?
Jennifer, you've been more in
It
on this.
is not something big that they have to do. They have to, I believe the paper will be sending you a copy of all the seals that are on it in case you need to locate it. However, they're doing work. They need to move the boxes because there are boxes. They're asking for permission and they have to have a resolution. in order to-
Yeah.
So in other words, they're gonna do the work to adjust it so it doesn't interfere with the signals or things that might have basically what's happening.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah.
They're, I think they had to relocate them because they're modifying some of the ADA accessibility and they're gonna be directly falling, so I think there may be some conflicts there. Or it also could be that if they have to run conduit, where they have to run it, it might conflict with the law.
I just wonder how disruptive this is gonna be to traffic.
A lot.
Okay,
It
just so that, you know, hopefully
Yeah.
they tell us when they're doing it, so we can.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would imagine, I haven't looked at the work zone traffic control plan, but it's probably gonna be single lane there with alternating traffic for a period of time.
Just like to understand the, you know,
It would be, is there a way to find out when? So we can.
We have no agreement yet because that work's gotta be done, so.
No, we did. You won't know until it goes out to bid. It's not even out.
They need a resolution for it.
Roll call vote?
Trustee Cornell? Yes. Trustee Baskin? Mayor Rossi?
Yes.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Trustee Lightning? Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Can I get a motion that Patricia Tesh be appointed to the Village Ball Spot Library Board?
I will make a motion.
Trustee Bendenza,
Second.
trustee Cormos, discussion.
She's great. That's all I have.
That's great discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that the mayor be authorized to enter into an agreement with Timothy Brown of 102 Locust Court to connect to Village Water? Trustee Baskin?
Second.
Trustee Raymond, discussion. This was approved in concept, but this was before we went to the policy of doing agreements with outside village users that are not in the water district. They're also, I don't know how this got approved without a Labella letter stating that there was correct volume and pressure, but I made sure that we had one done at least for this time around. So having said that, I want to make sure that we've done it right and with the agreement able to be entered into.
So we have taken care of that, so, because it's an individual owner instead of this.
We haven't taken care of the fact that I'll be executing an agreement. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that the Ballston Spot VFW Post 358 be granted permission to hold a veteran suicide awareness walk on Sunday, October 2nd from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. along Route 50 from the VFW to the Ballston Spot Elks Lodge 2619 and back. Permit will be issued upon proof of insurance.
I will make that motion.
Trustee Bendenza.
Second.
Trustee Raymond, discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We want to do one additional before we get to things that might be a little more hot topic for whatever reason. This guy came in earlier today. Clerk. Can I get a motion that the Union Fire Company number 2 add Alexander Summer, SOMMER, to their roles?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Raymond,
Second.
trustee Cormos, discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's go to the actual J at this point.
You want to do 80?
Well, that'll be paid. Can I get a motion to approve the holiday banner and ornament community art project and to provide funding of $2,500 to nonprofit company Arts and Sciences Creating Community Incorporated as to manage and create the items related to the program. The theme this year is Let There Be Peace on Earth. Banners are authorized to be placed on the Victorian Street lamp posts, and the ornaments are authorized to be placed on the village's holiday tree, on the gazebo, and in village store windows. The banners and ornaments will be installed the week after Thanksgiving and be removed after January, with dates of placement and removal based on DPW schedule and availability with no overtime required. The mayor is authorized to execute an agreement with ASK related to the funding of this program after approval by the village attorney.
Motion.
Trustee Bendenza.
Second.
Trustee Raymond, discussion.
You wanna go? What about-
Well, in general, so this is going to ask. One of the issues I have that I'd like to see addressed in the near future is transparency when it comes to a couple of things. I'd be interested in knowing who's, this is a new organization, who's on the board of ASK and the bylaws. I'd just like to see that. I'd like to know who's on the special events committee.
We're not a committee.
The mayor called it his advisory.
I didn't call anything.
You
There's
did,
she made a statement. He is advisory board.
at the last special meeting. Anyway, I don't care if it's all committee or group, but they thought, anyway.
It's your appointed.
I just like to know who's
I
on
did
it
not appoint anybody.
in writing. I'd like to just have an email on
So it's a
who's
club.
there.
It's a not-for-profit.
No, the special advisory committee that you
So the
have.
events we're talking?
Yeah, the events committee, which is
Group.
right? You call it a group now?
Group.
I don't know what that
I
means,
called
but
it a group.
You called it, right? I'd like to sort of a fuller accounting of Family Fun Day. All the revenue that came in and the expenses that went out.
You have it.
We don't have an income, we haven't seen the revenue piece. What?
I know you requested it, I haven't.
Yeah, so well, that's what we need to see. So we haven't seen that. It's been a little bit and I'd like to see that. I don't know what's happening with the 5,000 we've already allocated for birdhouses. So I don't know what we're getting for 5,000. I don't know the status of that. But prior to, voting for this, I'd like to know what's going on with that.
One has nothing to do with the other, first of all.
It's-
It's already been approved, second of all, but third of all, I'll humor you.
That's not humor
Do
me.
you know how
it's,
much wood goes into the making of a birdhouse?
So I heard that in August, early August,
That's not answering my
that
question.
Mark said that he is no longer pursuing the birdhouse project. Is that accurate?
No.
He put that in writing, but that's not accurate?
No.
So what is the status of that birdhouse project?
Full
that
speed
we
ahead.
put $5,000 towards?
Full speed ahead.
What are we going to get? Because he didn't get fully funded. So for our 5,000, how many birdhouses will we get?
Well, you're gonna get 1,000, and here's why. And this is why Ask was created, because you don't fund us enough. So we have to seek funds elsewhere to make the projects work that we want to do and include all the children that we want to include. So you're getting 1,000 birdhouses, you're getting a display in the park, you're getting birdhouses all around the village, and you're getting an international program with the Rotary.
And Rotary is sending out 100 of those birdhouses to foreign countries where they will be decorated, and they will send them back to us. And those birdhouses will be placed throughout the village, in stores, in businesses, in restaurants, and then maybe auctioned off. We'll have to figure that out later on, but it's going to be an international event that will be centered here in Ballston Spa. And it'll be in Rotary Magazine, which is an international magazine. It probably will have a little bit of good press for Ballston Spa.
Well, that sounds cool. It'd be good to know the status of that. We're waiting on a contract, I believe.
It's the normal contract that we always do with any not-for-profit.
We haven't seen.
You never see
that
it.
contract.
You never see it.
Well,
What? We don't see contracts?
You've never seen these contracts that we always sign. It's the template, it's the template contract.
well,
No, I'd like to see what the deliverables for the contract. We always see.
You're
contracts.
singling out this group now.
No, we're not.
You
We'll
will.
see contracts.
you are getting for your $5,000. If it makes you feel better, the 8,500 you gave us with a match that we had to raise 1,500 was under total control of the village. If it makes you feel better, let the $5,000 be under total control for the village. Because we're gonna have to supplement it with what we have planned, obviously. So for $5,000, you're getting one hell of a bargain. You're getting publicity up the butt for this village. But because it's us, okay, and it's not the library, or it's not the Friends of Wiswall, or whatever else you want to, other groups you want to talk about, you break our chops constantly. We do great things for this community, whether or not I live in this community. I'm a big business owner in this community, and I give back. And you guys have to make it difficult for us and only us every time. You have poo-pooed Family Fun Day, you had to have something wrong with that. You had to say, oh, $5,000 is a lot of money for birdhouses, when you don't have a freaking clue what it takes to build a birdhouse, how much wood is necessary for a birdhouse, what goes into the display of the birdhouses. You have no idea, but you have an opinion. And now you're going to poo-poo Christmas for all these children, that we're gonna make it an international Christmas in this village because it's us. And to tell you the truth, if you think you can do better than us, by all means, go ahead.
We are,
Explain it to Curtis Lumber, who's
Our
big
biggest
supplier.
supporter is Curtis Lumber.
let them know that you don't want to have that birdhouse. program.
first of all, whatever we give you, it's never enough, and you will always tell us how negative we're being. We gave you 8,500 at your request for Family Fun Day. That's a lot of money. We enabled it. to happen.
It's more
So,
than the budget.
And yes, it's
amount.
village money, it's village resident money. There are a number of people who didn't want it to happen. We chose.
Who
to-
didn't want it to happen? You give me a list.
Yeah.
You want a list?
So.
You give me a list.
So we should
Gina,
get.
this is not supposed to be a back and forth.
Yes, it is. It's a question answer.
So anyway, yes, we are fully supportive of family fun day. You said it cost $20,000. I don't know where all that other money is.
And you
We've
don't
never
have to
seen it.
know because it was raised by ACT, which is a non-for-profit that you have zero
It's-
control
It was
over.
a village event. That's what I'd like to clarify. I'm not saying anything wrong happened. I'd like better understanding of our relationship with Ask and how you're building off of village events to fundraise and where that money's going. I want an accounting of where all the fundraising goes. So for example.
You don't get that, and you have no right to it then. It's a non-for-profit and you have nothing to do with it.
Okay, no, okay,
Yes.
no, excuse me, I am speaking, I am not residing and stepping in at this point in time. Okay, we let that go on for a couple minutes. Any information needed, probably should have gleaned it. Sean had a relevant question about where the money's coming from. I'd like him to get his answer since he was being basically outspoken to or spoken over. Do I get that? Julia?
Yeah, back when Ash proposed the birdhouse project, they also proposed this holiday decorations, which it was tabled or moved forward with. At that time, we had actually discussed taking that 2,500 when it was proposed back then from the account called Taxes on the Village, which is account A1950.4. It is budgeted at about 35,000, if you can remember off the top of my head, and we have about $13,000 of taxes that we pay from that account.
In other words, it's a surplus account of about 22,000.
Yeah, generally, because there are some contracts that could be expiring, but taxes have been filtering in and we're pretty much under budget.
So we have 20,000 we can use for
Does that
other
answer
things
your
as well.
question?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see a list of what the money's gonna be spent on.
For the Christmas program?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Before we prove it, when we have a contractor, an outside engineering firm, consultant, they provide us a scope of services, what the money's going for. They also provide us insurance and a description of their organization if we are not familiar with their organization. I look at doing exactly the same thing with this, your organization. You would meet the same kind of requirement.
If you give us the money.
All in favor?
No,
Aye.
I have a question.
We're still discussing.
We're still discussing it.
All opposed?
Not going.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it 3-0.
What? There is no ayes.
There were 3.
Yes, voted.
Who voted?
Bernadette, Sean, and
I voted.
Frank.
Thank you.
The money's coming from something we don't need. I don't see why we're gonna quibble over.
Well, I
2,500.
think we need to discuss insurance. If they
I
are.
don't disagree, but I don't think for this, we need to discuss it. I think in a new budget year, we absolutely do need to discuss it.
No, before if we're contracting with someone, they need to meet certain requirements.
Can
But
I
we've
comment?
already
Yes,
set the precedent.
let's let our attorney, help it.
Okay,
Sorry, Joey.
Liz and I had discussed this earlier today, and basically what I've been doing while y'all are talking here is I drafted up the agreement with ask, which I need to ask, where's the K?
We say it that way, it's CC. It's ASCC.
Okay, so I'm gonna put it in as ASCC.
You do that.
Okay,
That's, yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Completely irrelevant, but that's where my mind went.
It's pretty relevant.
So generally speaking, what it is you're contracting with a separate corporation. So with every corporation, you have to have a different because they're not employees. There's no other way to pay them without vouchers and whatnot. So in the contract is the fact that they have to have, the indemnification, the hold harmless, and the insurance. After we spoke, I reached out and spoke with the mayor, and my understanding is that the village's insurance is covering this project. Is that?
That seems like a decision we should talk about.
It's,
Yeah.
I don't know.
it's,
I don't understand the relationship. I mean, I understand the relationship if we contract with somebody to provide us certain services. We have a contract, there's insurance required, how is this relationship with this not-for-profit different?
It's not from the way I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but from a legal perspective, you're contracting with a separate organization. The separate organization gets paid through a voucher system from the village. The separate organization is an independent organization. Yeah, it's an independent organization.
We don't take control of the money.
It has nothing to do with that. If there's a contract with something that is not a village committee, a village group, a village employee, you have to have a contract. So basically, like there's a contract with my firm. There's a contract with Labella. There's a contract with LaBerge. There's a contract with everybody. There's a contract with the not-for-profit.
GACC, et cetera,
Right. There has to be a contract.
seniors. Also, there are seniors, et cetera.
That's what we added, because we didn't have contracts with all those.
However, in this situation, what's happening is that it's a village-based event in terms of the Christmas tree, et cetera. What they're providing is essentially ornaments to hang on the tree and the creation of those.
Well, it seems like it's sort of like,
Yeah,
it's the both worlds here, where it's our event, but we're not going to track or know the money. We don't know everyone who's involved. So either it's their thing and their service, and we have a contract, and they manage their piece of the money, or it's our event, in which case we need to manage that money.
I think it was sort of a hybrid with Family Fun Day, because I looked at all the expenses and the abstracts to date. And it was a little over $10,000. And so I'd like to see where the $10,000 came in.
We paid for anything over the 8,500.
yes, yes.
Right,
So
that's-
we recognize that as budget amendments during the budget transfers that I did, so anything additional that they provide, whether it's a direct contribution from the companies or organizations that make a donation to the village on behalf of Family Fun Day, then I recognize that in terms of a budget transfer, but also there was donations from ASK that was made to the village, in which I recognize to then fulfill that difference of.
Don't we have to vote to accept any
Yeah,
donation?
and the budget transfers. We don't have to, the board doesn't have to make a motion to accept the donation, but I recognize it because it's going to be.
Well, I don't know.
Translated into-
I'll ask, I don't understand.
You don't need to do a motion to accept the donation. You always want to accept.
Can we ask that one person speak at a time so we can please hear? Thank you.
I just
Can't
want
hear
to
one
make sure
person at a
that
time.
we're responsible for village funds. And so if we're providing village funds for an event, we want to understand, and if there's supposed to be a contract, then they must have a contract and with the required insurance. Every other group we approve, had on it proof of insurance.
As Carlos, I've been telling Bernadette myself and clarifying, the ask is not doing physical work on the village's property. It's gonna be DPW doing the hanging, et cetera.
Correct.
And I'm putting that in the contract. So ASK is only managing and creating the items, and the village is placing the item. So there's no insurance. But, if
Yeah,
someone,
but still, I think we need to consult our insurance agent on that. If an ornament does something, some child does it,
That does bring up a question on liabilities, is if DPW hangs the ornament, is it DPW liable, or is it the person who made the ornament, because maybe the ornament was defective? I mean, it
Yeah.
goes in the big gray area.
It's
Yeah.
canvas. It's canvas, it's not lead.
But I mean, if the precedent was already set this year with this group, that the village insured. So, and I agree with you. I don't understand why there's an aberration compared to other non-for-profits who provide village indemnification. And in the future budget year, I would require that.
well, I don't think we should wait for another budget year.
Well, hold on, the Friends of Louisville does not provide insurance, so.
And they work in the park.
Yeah,
They're not an
so,
official property.
They're not gonna change that either. And are they gonna spend money with no
They're
fundraising?
looking to.
Yeah.
maybe form as non-for-profit anyway, beside the point. They
I
were,
just don't see it as fair that some non-for-profits indemnify themselves, but then other ones don't have to. And I understand that they're using DPW labor, but that provides another wrinkle that we're having a non-for-profit having a special caveat of using DPW labor to do their project.
anytime those banners are put up, it's DPW work, you know.
Every
year.
group,
So
no matter
like
who.
the play advertisements for SpongeBob, that was put up by DPW, so I don't really see this tremendous difference.
I'm going to cut this. I'm going to cut this because we do have another public comment session coming up, so we'll have time to address it. Can I get a motion that the board approve the Capital District Transportation Committee, CDTC, municipal self-analysis and transition plan for pedestrian infrastructure application, and for mayor to be authorized to sign and submit a letter of commitment to the CDTC for assistance in adopting and implementing an ADA self-evaluation and transition plan on or before September 30th, 2022. Trustee Cormos will complete the application, which will be reviewed and approved by the board prior to submission.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Raymond,
I'll say that.
trustee Baskin, discussion? Again, I'm just going to say, I hope we use consistency on the committee process moving forward. And as Chris suggested, that K from last meeting is disposed of because it doesn't belong here. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public, other business, sorry, other business. Public comment. Anybody like to speak? Ray? Yes.
Oh, yeah, 16 will work out. I just want to make a point that I spent a lot of time and had a lot of people show up for the assembly of a old gym in the park and was never asked for any insurance, was never asked for any of those guarantees. And I don't know why we can't have a kids party at a church. Anyway. It was not noted that there are 2 openings going to be coming up very shortly on the Parks Committee, an official committee of this village. The one term is going away, and the chairman of the Parks Committee is resigning, and it wasn't mentioned. So anybody out there that is interested, has an interest in parks, better get your name out here sort of quick, or else it's going to be 10 days and 6 weeks and all this other stuff.
And I haven't had an opportunity to reach out to either one of them to just clarify that that is their intention. That's why I have not
No,
mentioned
that's our
it.
intention.
So
Yeah, I actually know that.
I do want to talk to them personally though, before making announcements like that. So that's why it was not.
I would like to say in advance, thank you to the DPW and this village for repaving my street over the next 2 weeks that they haven't done yet. But it's gonna be, because they got lines, they got poles, they got pylons up and everything else. So I want to thank them, and those guys have done a tremendous job, in my notes here, or there it is. I just need to read some things to you. Jerusalem, the holy city. Paris, city of love. Geneva, the peace capital. Milan, fashion capital of the world. Dallas, the big D. Let's go. They're playing tonight. Boise, city of trees. Who knew? Detroit, Motor City. New Orleans, the Big Easy. Las Vegas, Sin City. Seattle, the Emerald City. Miami, the Magic City. Denver, the Mile High City. New York, the Big Apple. Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. Hershey, PA, the sweetest place on earth. Schenectady, Electric City. Mechanicsville, the paper city. Saratoga, the racing city. Troy, the collar city. Now let me read one other thing real quick here. Although it's never equipped with it. There we go. part of the communication that came to the New York Forward Group. I would also put more dollars into marketing. Hire a professional firm to work with the village and Bsdpa to develop a new image, etc. Village of Friends is getting old. Who said that?
I did.
Enough said.
Okay.
Make your judgments. Put it in perspective, folks. People don't want to change who we are. We're glad that we're a village of friends. We don't need a PR firm telling us that we're not.
You don't need a PR firm, so it's not a village thing.
Oh, it is a village of friends, Liz, I'm telling you.
Your friend.
Not just my friends. And that's not pointed at you. I just want people to know your feeling about this village.
It's not a feeling about the village, it's a feeling about the phrase. It was picked, I don't know
All
how
right,
many
you
years
win.
ago,
You win.
and many municipalities refresh their images.
Yep, and all those that I listed have not refreshed them in hundreds of years.
Who else would like to speak to public comment number 2? Hi, Darlene.
Hi, this is coming from New York State DOT. It's the state touring route program. The village of Ballston Spa is getting $72,749.17 for 2021, 2022. And it's gonna get the same amount for 2022, 2023 year. That's what I was referring to.
I think that's part of Chip's originally is saying, we'll
Yeah.
verify that.
Well,
So,
that's
yeah.
what I was referring to earlier, just so the people that are listening, so that they know what I was saying.
Yep.
And another street that I was riding on, and I noticed might need a little updating, is Remsen Street here in the village of Ballston Spa. So I noticed that's a village street versus a state route, so.
Remsen Street has a number of plates to it, and any county worker will tell you that, and definitely does need some work.
It's a whole street.
Yes.
I've noticed that with the, probably a lot of use it gets.
Probably one of the reasons Snaringer moved their title building out of there, for title business out of there. But yes, Remsen Street does need work. We are aware of that one for sure.
Not easy to do.
We'll get there.
Do we have a list of which streets are being done?
Jeff does, but he's at the wedding, and I never got actual paper copy. Did you have that one? Or no?
It's on our website.
Is it? Okay, good.
Oh, it is on the website, good.
Thank you.
Because I think people want to know, you know.
Oh, come on, Ben.
When do you notice when you're street speaking?
Yeah, they do give you
No.
a handout on that, right? Public comment number 2, anybody else? Donna Darius?
Reluctantly, Donna Dardieris, 64 Middle Street. Once again, I've attended this meeting, it's brought me close to tears, listening to what goes on here. I was on, I don't know what we're calling it, whether it's the mayor's advisory or what the hell it was, but I worked on Family Fun Day, and I made a private donation to Family Fun Day to help bring it about. The Christmas banners and the tree in the park, come on. You're gonna argue about that? We're gonna try to take over Breakfast with Santa because Bsdpa can't do it anymore. They've got the same group of volunteers that does the parade on a Friday night and then gets up on Saturday night. So we're gonna try to do it. And I told Gina,
Guys,
I don't want to ask for 1 penny from the village to do it. We'll donate money, we'll get the money. We've got a commitment from our Santa. We've got a commitment from someone to be Mrs. Santa. We've got a commitment from the school to do the thing with the children. We got to get the fire department and St. Mary's.
They're ready. Fire department's ready.
We're all going. Okay, and you're gonna talk.
I can't see that official, right?
We're gonna do it, and we're not gonna get money from the village because I don't want to listen to this kind of bullshit go on about people. And I'm a Democrat, I'm a registered Democrat. I donate money to the Democratic Party. And sometimes I'm ashamed. And Liz, I do think we're a village of friends when there are no politics. When we're working together as a community, we are a village of friends. And I don't see any reason why our name should change. And I don't even know if I want to continue to come to these meetings because they are so depressing. Honestly.
I think one of the knocks on me when we were all in election mode back then was that I was going to somehow look to change the village. I remember people saying this about me, and I was like, how do you even suggest that? Because you don't change a village like this. Do you make improvements here and there? Absolutely. There are things that you can fix and make part of the village that we remember or love and everything else. But there's no way to change this village after how many years? I'm 46 years old. I have folks that are somewhat older than me, in your case, younger than me, obviously, Donna. But folks that, tell me all the time the way things were and how important it is and everything else. I'm not looking to, I hope nobody in this panel is looking to change this village, improve it, fix it a little bit here and there, absolutely. But this is a great place. We have 5,100 dedicated residents in the village of Ballston Spa. And people at these NICOM meetings and other events I go to, we are the envy of them in that respect. And to get to gush about our community and some of the things that we wrote last week and year forward was an honor. It actually gave me a great start to my weekend as I was traveling. I was thinking about just that fact, and then to have to come back to this again, it obviously puts a damper on life, sure. But I'm trying to see the forest for the trees here and the things like you're saying of just how great the community is and people like you that don't want to get noticed or recognized for the contributions you make all the time. But we do love you for it nonetheless. Thank you for doing all you do to this community. Thank you. Well, Anna.
You know why you had to say the last thing. Anna Stangle, 32 Kent Street. For the record, people that are working together to bring these events together are Donna Dardarvis, Gina Morosi, Mark Black, Ray Otten, myself, Mary Price Bush, and Mandy Ryder. We are 7, and we are doers. We aren't talkers. We are think about it, suggest it, and sit on your ass and not do a damn thing. The 7 of us work very well together, and we are extremely diverse group. Republicans, Democrats, blanks,
Nothing.
men, women, Jewish, Catholic, Protestant, everything you want. We are it, and we don't care. When we sit down together, like, oh, can we meet tomorrow night? Yes, we can meet tomorrow night. We're gonna meet tomorrow night. We get things done. We get things planned, we get things done, and look at Family Fun Day. That was the product. And during that last little meeting on the New York Forward Grant, I heard Ben and I heard Liz. I heard Ben say it a couple times. Art is marketing. Art is marketing. And that is what brings people to this village, are these events. And the banners and the parade and the lighting of the Christmas trees. So for God's sakes, $2,500. Thank you, Sean, for seeing the light. Yeah, really. Thanks.
Michelle, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I did. Michelle Bashard, 14 Bath Street. Seems I speak all the time. I want to thank Chris for encapsulating my feelings about this proposed Amendment K that's gotten tabled. He did it short and sweet, so let's be grateful to him that I don't have to go back over it, but it is about control. I'm sorry, I read that the last meeting. It is about control. This New York thing came up on July 21st. We had until September 23rd. When you want to have these constraints on pulling people together to work on things like this that have these time constraints, it's not going to happen, which perhaps, I don't know, is a thought. So he took care of that. God bless Donna. You said the same thing. I'm still shaking from the whole, we need to change our village motto. That's just, it's just not right. If that's not broken, you guys, I give you credit. when you guys came in, or whoever was before you, fixed all the financial crap that was going on before I ever got involved. Kudos. That's the stuff that should be going on, but don't fix things that aren't broken. This village is based on what we all are here. To say that we're not a village of friends, I don't know these people, but all I know is I have in common with them is that we love this village and how it is and how we can make it better. I couldn't tell you, I couldn't pick them out of another crowd in another room or where they live, but they are my friends because we have a united idea of what this village is, what it can be, and it doesn't have to be like this. And then one other short thing, because when we go back to the New York Forward thing, July 21st, I left, God bless, my one vacation this year, didn't hear about it until I got back and realized my business wasn't included in the map. You have pointed me out on Facebook, you picked my business out specifically to somebody who had complained that they weren't getting covered, and I didn't appreciate that. And also someone on Zoom tonight mentioned it as well. I'm sorry that I called the mayor because he's the mayor. I don't have your number. I called the mayor and it wasn't a pleasant conversation. Why is my business not involved in this? That's all it was. So for you to make some implication that somehow I had worked something, my business, but you specifically brought it up the last meeting and then again on a Facebook post and then this gentleman tonight, as if I did something. I found out in a 7-week process that my building wasn't involved in the potential of getting some help when we have done nothing but make things prettier around us. And I did something about it. So I don't want to be, I don't want the implication that somehow I did something behind the scenes. I didn't. I found out about it and I got on it. So there's that. So please stop that. But again, I don't know any of these people, but they're my friends because this is my home. And I don't have 9 years. I don't have 46 years. I have 8 years and I love this place and I value it. And I'll be here every meeting to listen to this. And I'll give you kudos when you do the job. And you did, you cleaned up that. And Sean, thank you for tonight. And Bernadette, thank you for writing this. And thank you for keeping your crap together. And thank you both, these two ladies on either side of you who sit here and we're here for one reason. Please stop trying to pull us apart. And I do get that feeling. And I don't want to, because I don't care where you are on the aisle, where I am, where anybody else is. We're here for this town, for this village. Please, please, guys. We just got to get it together. Thanks. Thank you.
No, let's say. You get something to say.
I love this village too. I chose this village. We chose it for what it is. And I have put hours and hours of my time, far more hours than $4,000 a year. Yes, we get paid. These meetings alone wouldn't cover our costs. Never mind the hours. Everything that New York Forward is built on, that makes it a possibility, was done by us the last 3 years. And by Christine and Noah. We're the ones who straightened out the financials. I give credit to Larry as well, but it was not Larry alone who did that. We did it as a board. And we did the economic development survey, which, by the way, I brought to the village. Not Larry. I introduced it to Larry and said, this is something good for the village. Let's do it. And he agreed. Great. We did the economic development. The whole pedestrian and bicycle plan. I spent hours. I love this village too, and I want to see improvement. I want to see improvements in infrastructure, which everybody agrees. That I don't put as much weight on events. No, I don't. That's not really the job of a government, is to provide events. It's a good marketing thing, yes. But our duty is to keep the water, the sewer running, pave the roads, fix the infrastructure and provide, services. That's where my emphasis is. But I don't apologize for it. And frankly, Village of Friends has a bit of a hollow sound to a lot of people in this building. And I've heard it more than once.
That's enough. I am gonna raise my hand to speak.
Are you done with?
Wow. Yeah.
Now that you cleared the room. Gina Morosi, 10 Old Glory Lane. Liz, the difference between you and I stood here, bought for $2,500, and not once did I say I. Not once. I talked about the group, I talked about the village, I talked about children. And you just sat there and said I at least 6 times. Check yourself.
Bob?
Bob Bush, 71 Church Ave. If we're not such a village of friends, then obviously you did not go to Family Fun Day, because it didn't matter what neck of the woods you came from, what political party, we all came together, we all put that on, and it was a fun day for everyone. There was no bickering, there was no BS. Just everyone had a great time. Ben, I saw you down at the, down by me. I don't remember if we talked, whatever, but everyone talked, everyone had a great time. It didn't matter what you guys were, we call me for politics and that. We're a friend of villages because we're a village, because we can do that. We can go have an event and we all get along. Why can't we do this on the board? We're still a village of friends. We're still all friends. So why can't we just put our differences aside and our BS and get things done? Instead of being bickering back and forth and all this crap. I don't care what political party you are. I don't care if you have a problem with this board member, that board member, whatever it is. Put the crap aside. Stop making it difficult for one person or the other person. It shouldn't matter. We're here for the village. We're not here for personal differences. Put it aside and get the crap done. That's it.
Anyone else in the room? Anybody on Zoom? Keith, 3 minutes, go ahead.
Keith Lewis, 38 East High Street, Ballston Spa. First off, I want to address on the grant. By no means was I saying that I didn't like the fact that the border was adjusted, or that I felt like there was some nefarious way that occurred. I don't agree with that. My point about the Historic Commission, Bernadette, you did get a hold of John after I said something, and I appreciate that. But the time to have done it would have been earlier. Not necessarily so that the Historic Commission would have been involved, but perhaps it could share some insights. That's all. I think that more heads are better than less heads. And I think that it's important, if you've got 5 members on the board, to involve 5 members on the board. And I want to talk about this funding, because, there are rules around how you access municipal funds. And there has to be an accounting about it. That process is why the finances are now in order. And the lack of that process is why the finances were not in order for years, 4+ years of not filing the appropriate accounting with New York State. No idea of what the financial condition was. No fund balance, no rainy day fund, nothing. That is why the process is important. And what I would say about this idea on is it ask or ax or ask? So did they have an IRS 501c3 confirmation letter? And if not, I would ask Carla, is the village capable of even contracting with them? These are the kind of things that I think are important to talk about and be sure that we do on process. It's not a matter about, I frankly don't agree that village of friends or village of not friends, or I think the saying is fine. I don't see any reason to revamp, but I do think that we need to have this conversation, as Bob Bush said, of being able to take the rhetoric out and cutting to the fact we have a common goal. We have a common goal. We may have different ways of reaching it. And I'd like to see some collaboration. I'd like to see not a Bernadette and Frank team and a Liz and Ben team and a Sean making the decision in between, or I'd like to see you work together, but it's involving one another in the process and having the process that is set forth for municipalities, not for just friends, frankly. Thanks.
From the New York State Department of State, ask is a not-for-profit recognized as charitable, is right in the entity. While watching the meeting, anybody could have easily gone and searched it on Google. So let's get away from that kind of suggestion.
Speaking when not knowing.
I've got this thing.
But
I think that's gets rid of that.
Just as wanting to see a contract. Is the request of the board members.
I have some comments to make, but I'll wait till we're done with public comment.
Board comments, questions, and concerns. Go ahead, Ben.
There's no other person
I
on.
would say C10 is back up if you want those.
It's 3 minutes, Rocco.
Oh.
Okay. So there's this narrative that we don't support what's going on. And the history is we have allocated $8,500 to Family Fun Day. I consider that a substantial investment in Family Fun Day. We all voted for it. And I'm hoping the people who left the room will watch on television so they hear these comments. So we all supported Family Fun Day. All right, that's the historical fact. $5,000 for birdhouse, we all voted for that. I consider $5,000 for birdhouse a lot of money. I consider that a good investment in birdhouses, a birdhouse event. We all voted for that. We support it. We want something to happen. I don't personally think we need to have 1,000 birdhouses. I think the last time there were too many birdhouses everywhere, and many of them fell apart and looked terrible after some time and were never cleaned up. But anyway, the bottom line is we allocated $5,000 towards birdhouses. I think it's a great project. I think probably, in my mind anyway, $1,000, which is what was initially allocated for the holiday event and ornaments and things like that. $1,000 sounds like enough money for ornaments for a holiday party or a holiday event. Okay, so $2,500 sounds like a lot to me. Now, I'm okay with it if it's, a little more expansive, but I'm also okay with $1,000. This is village money, it's not unending. So we support these events. We have voted for thousands and thousands of dollars towards the events. It's not unreasonable, however, for us to know how the money is used, for instance. So I appreciate an update on the birdhouse thing, because as far as I knew, it was dead. We haven't heard anything about it. We haven't seen a contract. I'd like to see that contract. I don't know if we need a motion on that, but we can make a motion that we want to see a contract on what we're actually getting for the 5,000, because the initial big budget of 30 or 40,000, I heard isn't happening. It's not that much money involved. So I don't know what we're getting for 5,000, but I'm sure it'll be great. Mark always does good to us. But it would be good to know, what is the status of that? That's $5,000. Whatever we give, it's never enough. That's the narrative. So that's right. So whatever we give, it's never enough. So that's what we're going to hear back. We can just expect that. No matter how many thousands we give, we can expect from people that It's not gonna be enough and we're terrible people because we don't support it, we're not supportive enough. I reject that response. I think we are very supportive of village events. I think we donate or allocate thousands of dollars towards it, but we'll never hear that appreciation or that acknowledgement. And that's just a political thing. That's political reality. I think it is important to know who's on the mayor's advisory committee / group, because if it's the same people asking for funds, that's a conflict. So we should know, are they the same people or not? And, you know, recommending that they get funded for an event, because a lot of this money is going towards Mark directly for his salary, right? He's gonna get paid.
No.
He's not getting paid from his
No,
fundraising.
your $5,000 and your 2,500 are going to material.
So-
See, and that's where again, you talk and you don't act.
No, the
Ask me.
remaining money that is
So
gotten because it is a village event.
yeah, what I want to know, two things. What is happening with the funds that we are allocating? How are they being used? And then also, what else is happening around a village sponsored event?
Man, can I ask you a question?
Just to know, who's being asked for sponsorship?
Can I ask you a question?
Whose signs are going on the park? Just to know how much additional funds are being raised, you know, with the seed money from the village. I think it's helpful to know. I think it's important to know, you know, what's happening for transparency.
So Ben,
Yes.
you're asking this group, you are inquiring with the firehouse about the bathroom, from what I understand, that they got funding for just a couple of months ago or a few months ago, that they have an entire budget year to spend. But I'm gonna ask you a question. Have you asked Linda Elmer what their spending is, or how their spending is being used on a point-by-point basis with Ballston area seniors? Are you asking BACC?
$1,000?
Are you asking BACC about their accounting every day? Are you asking
That
are you asking any other organization that we give money to on this regular basis, or are you cherry picking how you're approaching this? Because that, I think, is the concern ultimately a lot of people have, that you're more or less cherry picking the things that you didn't necessarily support. So now you're going to become a nudge on that money and try to kind of flex your muscle, I guess, about it after the fact. And that's where people, I think, go off the rails about this whole thing with you, is that you are picking on certain people more than others.
Well, again, I did, so you said that I didn't necessarily support. I did support it, so that's the record. I support it, I repeat it. At the time I supported it, I repeat the support now. I have always supported it. This is a new group. It's your sister involved, so that's another reason that we need utter transparency. BACC, the senior group, they are well established. That process was vetted as part of the regular budget process, not ad hoc, month after month, new money. So for all those reasons, I know the answers to those questions about how they're being spent and who the people are involved and how that money was requested and the history behind that money, which goes back way before I was voted on. So this is new money to a new group. So yes, and to people associated closely with you. And so yes, there needs to be a transparency there.
And for
wanted to jump
village
in.
sponsored
I'm sorry,
events.
I've been waiting. Then we had a question about the cost, 2,500. The arts committee, when they met and reviewed this, there was an artist there and he, talked it out with the committee. And he did not think this was an exorbitant cost to ask for, just to set that straight for you, right?
But the thing is, these are events that are village sponsored. They have an association, direct association with the village versus the car show. That's Bsdpa. That's not a village sponsored event. And that's the distinction. When you're using the village, that's what you're asking people to support. The village doing a village event. That's different than a not-for-profit that sponsors their own event that we may actually contribute to. That's a little bit of a reverse, where they ask us for money to help support their event. Is it our event or is it ASK's event? That's what
How
I wanna
about
know.
it's all of our events, Liz? How about you work in cooperation for a change? How about you realize that what we do as a group benefits the children of this village? And I challenge you
to go out and talk to people and ask them if they're for or against these events. I
I'm not
challenge you.
talking about,
And then-
you're changing the subject. I said, is it a village sponsored event or is it a ask event?
And I just answered you.
Okay, it's gone on far enough
That's it.
tonight.
I said it's ours, all of ours.
Then you share in the liability and should have insurance.
That's what you're worried about. You worried about the insurance list? I'll personally go out and get you your goddamn insurance. Now what? No.
So it is
Now what's your
time for
complaint?
executive session for
Can't handle someone
multiple
else doing
items,
something.
including contracts and a personnel question. And yes, I do. Motion by trustee Fandesa, second trustee Raymond, all discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You put on mute and turn the camera off. Okay. Is the rest of your house?
Oh my gosh,
What?
10 to 11.
Not again.
We in?
Yeah, okay.
We are back from executive session at 10:50 PM. We will be taking action, or at least intend to here. So can I get a motion that the Village of Ballston Spa enter into an optional lease agreement with CHPE LLC related to rental of land located at 407 Malta Avenue for the monthly rent of $1,400 for a term of plus minus 3 years. And permitting the, authorizing the mayor to execute such agreement after the village attorney reviews such agreement and approves it.
I'll make that note.
Trustee Raymond,
Second.
trustee Cormos, discussion for the public's edification here. We've been approached to have a laydown yard in land that we own on Malta Avenue in the town of Malta. This laydown yard is for a conduit that is going from Canada down to Lower Manhattan. Originally, we thought we needed to give them 10 acres. That's going to reduce to 3 acres, but the monthly rent is going to be the amended motion, if you're willing to accept it, is $1,400 per acre plus minus 3 acres. Do you accept that? Yeah, okay, and accept that in the second also. I apologize for that. So anyway, it's $1,400 for 3 acres, give or take. We had to talk with DPW and our police chief because our shooting range is also there, and they're going to be able to do this in a way that avoids that stuff.
And they have to get the permits from town hall.
Correct. I volunteered to talk to Supervisor Hammond over there to just, give him kind of that highs and lows. I think he's aware of this project though, but as far as actually getting the approval, it's on them to get the approval. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that vouchers number 22-02190 and 22-01983 to 23-00790 be audited and the meeting be adjourned at 10:53 PM.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Bsdpa, trustee Raymond, discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Yes.